What's up, fam? Welcome back. Hockey Happy Hour. We're talking Metro Division Part 2 tonight. Matt Tsuti, Brad Ryer, Rob Povia. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Don't you miss a moment. Don't do it. No.
Oh my God! I'm embarrassed! He's flying!
Welcome in. It's almost time.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Hockey Happy Hour. We are live on a2dradio.com. I am Matt Tsuti, along with the one and only broken one, Rob Povia.
Gentlemen, good evening. Glad to be here.
And I was this close to saying Darkwing. This close, but I resisted this time. And we have over here the one and only Mr. Switzerland, Big Bad Brad Ryer. How are you doing, sir?
I'm just swell, guys.
And today we are going to continue our breakdown of the Metropolitan Division. We started off with the Flyers, the Devils, and the Penguins. So now we're going to leave the Keystone State and New Jersey, and we are going to turn our attention to Washington and to New York for both the Islanders and the Rangers. That is what is on the docket for today. But before we dive in any further, I'll talk to you about our sponsor, Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains that are bothering you and are just causing you all kinds of distress to the point where you're just like, Jesus, how can I possibly get through the workday? Or even so, like, how am I supposed to even just do anything in general without being in impossible pain? The person to go to is none other than Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy. His team of highly trained experts will lead you down the right path. Highly trained, certified, they'll take care of you, and they'll make sure you don't have any aches and pains. And once you're done with them, you'll feel as good as new. So www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Visit them at Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey, and the doc will take care of you. And for the poll question, before we dive into the poll itself, brought to you by Baggio's Bread. If you got a big celebration coming up and you want to have a special party, a special get-together, Baggio's is the place to go, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. And if you mention A2D, you get 10% off of your in-store purchase. So that way you have some good food and good company, and you have a good time along with it. And to the poll question we go, and that is the New York Rangers will win the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, the Rangers have been quite a team over these last few seasons. They were building towards this. They have finally gotten to that point where they should be perennial cup contenders almost every year. But the question is can they get past the tricky little thing known as the semifinals? And if they do that, can they go on to take the Eastern Conference and represent the East in the Stanley Cup Finals? Gentlemen, I'll leave it to you. Agree or disagree? Can the Rangers, can the Blue Shirts of Broadway win the East?
Take it, brother.
Yes, they can. Okay, I think health is going to play a big part of it, but a new coach, okay, a new attitude. A lot of times, when you hire a new coach with a veteran group like this, usually the first year is always a big year. Mm-hmm. And I think that this year, I truly think that they believe. I'm hearing a lot of positive stuff out of their camp, out of the coach's mouth. They all seem to be on board, and I think it's going to be quite the season. I like the Branson signing. Love Wheeler. I mean, geez, for the amount of money they're paying him, my God, a 52 point player for 1 year on an $875,000 contract is just I can't understand it. And that same thing goes for Goodbranson. I mean, they're paying him $875,000. Guy scored 42 points as a defenseman last year. I mean, this guy is going to be our number 5 defenseman. With Schneider on the third line. I think this is on the third pairing of defense. I think this is going to be a heck of a team. I certainly think that Wheeler is going to fit in like a glove with Panarin, and that line is definitely going to benefit. I think Trocheck finally isn't going to have to be the tough guy all the time. You can let Wheeler kind of handle that. Plus, Wheeler goes to the net. So now you have 2 lines out of the top 3 where you really have guys who are aggressively going to the net. You have Chris Kreider on the first line who always goes to the net, and now on the second line you're going to have Wheeler who always goes to the net. And likes to start things up. And we'll see about if guys like Offman or Cooley or one of those guys can make the team get on the third line, not the fourth line, but the third line. They're both very aggressive and like to go in front of the net. And I think that was the big problem with the Rangers last year, especially against the Devils. Other than Kreider, nobody was going to the net. Nobody seemed to have the stomach for it. And Kane was absolutely toast last year. He had nothing left. Obviously, his injury probably had a lot to do with it. Tarasenko was okay. I mean, he did get 3 goals in the playoffs, but that could be replaced, and who knows? They may even end up getting him back. I kind of think that he's just sitting in the refrigerator in Ottawa, waiting to be taken out and put into the oven of New York at the trade deadline. So I mean, I not only do I predict that's going to happen, I'm quite confident at it. As a matter of fact, I think it's almost perfect because Ottawa's not going to make the playoffs. I'm sorry, they're not good enough. So I'm confident about that. I like this team. I think they're definitely going to be a better team. I think they needed to get past getting rid of their coach. Listen. I like the Turk. He was a good guy. Gallant was certainly not a dumb guy. He definitely got the guys going in the right direction. But I think his voice grew a little tiresome, and I don't think he adjusted very well when things went wrong. And I think that was part of the problem with the Devils. The Devils adjusted after being down 2-0 in that series, and the Rangers didn't adjust back. And I think that was the problem.
All right, then. Robbie, how do you feel about the Rangers?
I'm going to have to agree as well. While last week in part 1 of our Metro Division breakdown, which you can find on YouTube or download wherever you get your podcast, I stated the Devils will win the Metro Division, and I stand by that. I stand by that with their team speed and with the acquisition of Tyler Toffoli, giving them another 30-goal scorer on that club. But the Rangers will be right there in that top 3, and they will have the more dominant playoff run based on their team experience, leadership, stamina at that point of the season coming into the playoffs, and just a decided edge between the pipes and Igor Shesterkin, as Brad alluded to. Right now, the Canes are the Vegas favorite at around plus 500 to 550, but I totally disagree with that. Jersey is at plus 600, and the Rangers range, see what I did there, from plus 800 to plus 950, depending on where you look. I see those odds increasing in the favor of the Blue Shirts.
Gotcha. Anthony's saying, who cares about the Rangers? Well, apparently Brad.
I do.
Yeah. He also said, hey, guys, what's going on, Anthony?
What's going on,
Meanie.
Also, Whalers Hockey Soup 3 saying, hi, just subbed. Thank you, Whalers Hockey. Appreciate you coming on by.
Awesome.
Yep. And Stars fans, Jackalope saying, sup, fellas? What's up, Stars fan? How you doing, brother? And Fish Sticks Islanders Nerd OK saying, hell no, Rangers are not winning the East. Wonder why he says that. And
ask Mrs. Paul. She's been cooking the fish sticks for quite a while now.
Yeah, there's some Islanders faithful already hitting the chat up on YouTube. But
yeah,
you alluded to how you add Brad Wheeler to this squad. You know, he wasn't the only guy that he added to it. Nick Bonino, Erik Gustafsson. I think that makes the Rangers a deeper team.
Bonino as a center is going to make a big difference because
Right.
I mean, listen, I like Gaudreau. Don't get me wrong, but Gaudreau was not a guy who was going to win faceoffs.
Right.
Okay, and he's not as good a defensive player as Bonino. Bonino and with Gaudreau, and I forgot the other one that they signed, Pitlick. Yeah, Tyler Pitlick. I think that's going to be one hell of a fourth line. I mean, it's physical. You know, it's got some tough players out there, and they're all real good defensively, and they can score. I mean, I just think that they needed to. They did what they needed to do. There's not a lot of things you can improve on that team. I mean, they got real good players. You take a look at it. You know, you're probably gonna see Capo, Kakko, or Lafreniere move up and play with Zibanejad and Kreider. I'm thinking more like Kakko. And then, you know, on the third line, between Hedl, Lafreniere, and, you know, you're probably going to get, you know, one of the rookies, whether it's Hoffman or Cooley, making the team. And, you know, those guys are very aggressive and have scored a lot of goals in juniors and in the minors. And I think that it's going to be one of these two is going to make the team and definitely have an impact.
Yeah. And Matt, we know how quality a player like Ryan Pitlick could be on your bottom six.
Yeah, he spent some time with the Flyers, and he was more than capable of getting a hold of the puck and making something happen with it. It was,
and he could also drop the gloves, and he's good in the corners, and he's very responsible defensively, and that's what I want to see out of my fourth line. I don't want to see my fourth line trying to go up and down with the other team's fourth line trying to score. I just want to see some hitting, you know, wearing down other players, actually being good enough if they get stuck out on the ice against the other team's first line to be able to be good enough defensively to hold that first line down until they can change lines. That's what I want to see. And we didn't see that against the Devils when their fourth line, when the Rangers' fourth line got caught on the ice against Hughes and those guys, they just got killed. I think the announcer, God bless him, I can't stand him, but Sean, whatever the hell his name is, McDonough, I think when he said that they got caved in, okay, he was right. He was right, and the Devils were smart enough to be able to sneak Hughes and company out there when that fourth line was out there, especially in New Jersey. And I mean, they you know, there was no stopping them.
Right.
And Fish Sticks also saying Islanders are winning the East and eating fish sticks. We'll see. We'll talk about that when we get to the Islanders. Will saying, "What's up, guys? What's up, Wills?"
The geriatrics home.
And moving on, Anthony saying Brad looks good with a Flyers jersey. I don't know if you want to say that to Brad. Might see Big Bad
camera down, Brad. Pan it down.
There you go.
I don't know. Big Bad Brad might be making an appearance soon enough if Anthony keeps this up.
This is my red shirt, which are hard to. It's hard to find red Ranger shirts.
That's right. But imagine if the Rangers had a red jersey. That would have been very interesting.
Well, yeah, you know, you might see, you know, one of their alternate jerseys one of these years red. You never know.
I don't know. I think that would kind of look a little weird to me. Maybe just me, only because I'm so used to seeing them wearing white and blue. Just me personally.
Well, yeah. Well, listen, yeah, but I had the regular jersey right on the other side of the room. I mean, it's a little warm. It's a little warm in here to be wearing a hockey jersey. So
just a little.
Yeah.
Jake saying, "What up, fellas? I'm going to disagree with the poll." And Flyers fan 1995 saying Flyers are going to do the funny with it all with a horrible record and get the number 2 draft pick because we tend to do the funny. Huh. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Well, it's good to know that we got that taken care of. And for anybody out there who wants to know anything going on with the Phillies right now, Phillies just took the lead in the game, bottom of the 5th with a 2-run shot from Bryce Harper.
So it's a 3-2 now?
It is 3-2 now. And let's see. Vespi saying it's going to be an interesting division race. It will be. And Flyers are saying, I don't see the Islanders making any noise. What's up, Tommy? Saying, my guys, hockey talk. What's going on, brother? He's also saying, and Penguins God Crosby fan 100 saying, we're winning the cup with Carlson.
Oh, here it is.
There's a bold prediction.
I'm glad this dude chimed in, though, because before we got into tonight's teams, I did want to take a quick aside and say that, we talked what the Pens, outlook was last show, but has anyone's predictions changed since acquiring Erik Karlsson?
Yeah, they're coming in fourth place now.
I would say that if the Penguins, they have a very strong case for even taking third place. If a team stumbles, I could actually see the Penguins sneaking in and taking third place in the division. That's if either, say, the Devils or the Rangers or the Hurricanes start stumbling a little bit towards down the home stretch. I could see it happening. I could see that happening now.
There's just one thing I would say with the Penguins, okay? They're old and they all get hurt. And by the way, Jake Getzel just got his ankle cleaned out and he's not even going to be skating for 3 months. So
that is a rough loss for the Penguins.
Yeah, so I just want to be, I don't mean to belabor the point, but that team is the Yankees of hockey. Everybody gets hurt on that team. It never seems to stop. Jarry's always getting hurt too. Crosby played all 82. Is he going to do that again at his age?
I thought you were going to say they're the Yankees of hockey because they pay all of these top name players to try and buy championships. But
there's a salary cap in hockey, so they can't really do that.
Can't do that. Actually, really, to be honest, even when there wasn't a salary cap, I think there was only one or two teams that even actually got that to work for them. Right. The Red Wings were one of them, and that was it.
Right. Oh, the Penguins in 91 and 92 were
but they're like the exceptions for the most part.
That was one of the highest payrolls ever. They're paying Lemieux and Coffey and trying to remember some of the other guys they stole from Edmonton. They had half of Edmonton's team on their team, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Right. What were you going to say, Rob?
Then the Rangers got the other half in 93, 94.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the cap almost kept this deal from happening, but just like we suspected, the Penguins threw in Jeff Petrie into the deal. The whole deal, because there's three teams involved between San Jose and Montreal.
They got Montreal involved. That was the key.
Yeah, exactly. And they're obviously Jeff Petrie, who played for them in the past, familiar with that player. Pittsburgh acquires defenseman Erik Karlsson, forward Rem Pitlick, forward Dylan Hameliuk, and San Jose's 2026 third-round draft pick. San Jose acquires Pittsburgh's 2024 first-round draft pick, which is a top 10 protected. Obviously, next draft's going to be not as good as this one, but still pretty decent. Forward Mikael Granlund, defenseman John Ruda, and forward Mike Hoffman goes to San Jose. Some really good depth guys for San Jose as they're rebuilding there in Southern California.
Montreal. Ruda. That's a nice move for them.
John Ruda.
Yeah, I always liked him. He's one of those guys. He may not show up on the scoreboard, but he's a hardworking player. I think he'll be a real good influence on some of their younger players.
Right.
And speaking from the San Jose perspective, this was something that had to happen because the Sharks were trying to rebuild. They're trying to get back to something, and the only way they're going to do that is get Karlsson off the books because you have to move that salary. That contract was ridiculous. And, and credit to Mike Greer because he didn't want to retain 50% of the contract, and he didn't retain 50% of the contract. So that is some good GM wizardry right there from Mike Greer.
Wizardry. Yes, sir. The third team, Montreal, they acquired Pittsburgh's 2025 second-round draft pick, defenseman Jeff Petrie, goaltender Casey DeSmith, and forward Nathan Lagar. Now, Brad, you talked a good point with Pittsburgh losing Casey DeSmith and what that how that affects their starter, Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm not quite getting here is who's going to be when Jarry has his annual trip to the injured list. Who's going to be playing goal for Pittsburgh? I'm kind of curious. I mean, I was thinking maybe they might take $800,000 and go out and bring in Yaro Halak. May not be a bad. I mean, we laugh, but when he played after he lost the first 6 games he played, He actually played very well after those first 6 games for the Rangers. So,
Right.
maybe they do something like that. But I mean, I think Casey DeSmith is not a bad goalie. I'm really surprised that they would let him go and leave themselves out there with Jarry. I mean, look, Jarry is good. He's an all-star goalie, but again, he's really had some injury problems the last couple of years. I'd be a little, if I'm a Penguin fan, that would scare me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he Carlson will help the defense in front of him when he is healthy. So maybe it's rob from Peter to pay Paul situation.
Yeah, no question. I mean, listen, they're going to be a better team. I mean, I think now I would pick I would amend my pick and say they're going to finish 4th and not 8. But it's thanks, Tom.
Well, we know we ain't winning it, so.
And DeVale's Kings fan saying, I think we are going for a cup run this season. I see Carolina losing in the conference finals again. Well, Carolina is going to be interesting because they went all in this past year and they ultimately got stomped by Florida in the Eastern Conference Finals. So you're kind of wondering, okay, what's next for you guys? Because you did put everything you had into this team and you still wound up checking out in the same round you've checked out 3 times already.
One goal short 4 games in a row.
Right,
Ouch.
Right. It's that's a rough way to go out if you're Carolina.
Yeah,
and
it might be the closest sweep in the history of hockey.
Maybe. Phillies are now up 4-2. But I was gonna say that I loved how Rod Brindamore though came out and said, well, we really didn't get swept. So I'm like, I love you.
Yeah,
I love you, Brandy. But you know what? You got swept, buddy. In the record books, it's going to say Florida 4, Carolina 0 in terms of the series. That's a sweep.
Matt, that's kind of like when the Rangers lost in 2013-14 to the Kings in 5 games. 3 of the 4 losses they had were in double overtime.
Right.
But does that mean that actually? So does that mean they actually? Because they played 2 extra games, and because of all the periods, does that mean they played 2 extra games? So it took them. So they really only lost 4-3. No.
Record book will show. Kings 4, Rangers 1.
Maybe the closest 4-1 series ever all time, but still. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. There's
Right.
No names on the cup. No names on the cup from New York in that season.
Oh man. So yeah. But Carolina, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Carolina. For the Devils, the Devils, if there's a time for them to really seize the moment, I hate to say this, but it's true. Actually, both. I hate to say this double. For the Rangers and the Devils, this is the time. This really is the chance for them to really try to assert themselves in the Metro and start to make these runs happen and see if they can finally get into the Stanley Cup Finals. Because now you don't have, yes, the Penguins got Carlson, but again, if things go right, I say Penguins get 3rd place. But if things stay normal, Penguins get in on a wild card. The point being is that the Penguins and the Capitals are not here to block you nearly as much as they were 3-4 years ago, where the Rangers always wound up either getting knocked out by the Capitals or the Penguins, or if you're the Devils, you're rebuilding and you're not even in it. So now if there's ever a chance, now's the chance for both teams to try and grab a cup now.
I think you're right. I just, I think the problem with Canes is that they still haven't addressed the goaltending. I still don't think it's good enough in a big spot. Freddie Anderson, as good as he is, never, ever seems to be the man in the playoffs. He's a regular season goalie, and he seems to he gets small in the playoffs, and it just doesn't seem like. I mean, I like Antti Ranta. Don't get me wrong, but Antti Ranta, when in his heyday, is a backup goalie. Yeah, he's able to take the reins for a few games and keep your head above water and be really, really good. But if he's playing every game, the warts start to show, and he gives up a lot of goals that he shouldn't give up. Not that he
Right.
gives up a lot of goals, because Carolina defensively is just a terrific defensive team. But he'll let in the soft goal, and those soft goals will kill you actually in the playoffs.
See, it's funny because, we saw a team a year ago wind up winning a Stanley Cup without necessarily having the greatest of great goaltenders, a starter by NHL standards, but he isn't a world beater in Philip Grubauer. And we saw the Avalanche ride him to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they won. But I think a lot of that was also due to the fact that team was just on fire, and they gobbled up teams left and right in the West. And then when it came to
they could score like, I mean, they were unstoppable. They had three lines that were just beastly, and then they had a fourth line that was physical beyond physical. That both teams were scared to were it's kind of scary going up against them, because they had some guys that were just terrorizing people out there. So,
but what we're saying is that Colorado seems to be the exception, not the rule. Usually.
Right. I mean,
then
star-studded lineups can make up for poor goaltending.
Right. And when you got players like Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar and they're firing on all cylinders, it's just like, yeah, have fun. Good luck stopping that. You're not gonna. Nice try, though. Also, Valeri Nichushkin, who was no small part of that year's run to the Stanley Cup final.
And ironically, talking about Freddie Anderson, I have the polar opposite in terms of our all-time, from these organizations later on in the shootout, a goaltender that rose to the occasion in the playoffs. Just a little tease.
Okay. Swoopy, what's going on, brother? Hopefully you're doing well tonight. Anthony's saying, I'm calling it now. Torts Coach of the Year 2024. Interesting. That's a bold proclamation for the Jack Adams. It wouldn't be the first time. I think Torts, did he win the Jack Adams with the Rangers?
I honestly don't remember.
I think he did win it, though.
I don't remember him actually winning it, but I mean, he did. He took a team that was basically a black and blue type team, and he got them to a pretty high level.
I could swore I remember Torts winning it once. If it wasn't with the Rangers, maybe it was with the Lightning, and I think a lot of that was because of the Cup. But
runner-up that year. He was
runner-up. Oh, okay.
Well,
that's what it was.
Well, I think
always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Huh, George?
Yeah, in 2012, 2013, he had the team. He had the team go pretty far. I think they got to the semifinals and lost to the Lightning.
Right.
And then he got into a big fight with Sather, and Sather fired him.
That would do it.
Yeah, well, Tortorella apparently, Sather wanted him to be more offensive minded, and he argued that he didn't have the talent to play that way, which I think he was right. Yeah, it's really easy to change your style when all of a sudden Martin St. Louis comes strolling into town.
Right.
Trade deadline, that. And then his mom passes away, and then he was inspired and scored a zillion goals in the playoffs. And I still think that if they would have had Zuccarello in that series, I think they could have won that. They could have won that series, because that was a big loss. Zuccarello back then was a big time player for them.
Oh yeah,
he absolutely was.
Yeah, that was tough for them. That was a very bad break. I mean, he gets. What are the odds that you get hit in the ear by a shot?
Not very high, but it does happen.
You're wearing a helmet, and it happened. The helmet happens to get pushed up just in the right second that he gets hit in the ear, and he fractures his skull. I mean, come on.
It's kind of the same thing as if, a goalie having his cage and the puck just happens to perfectly get through the bars and smack you right in the face. It's very rare, but we've seen where sometimes the shot is so heavy it actually bends the bars when it does that. I mean, hell, it happened in the middle of a playoff series to Boucher against the Devils. A shot came and smacked him right in the mask, and he actually had to get his old mask because the bars wound up bending open where his
Was the
his
puck stuck
eyes
in
would
there?
be. The puck, I think, did get stuck in there, and that's what they had to do because I think it was Kovalchuk who shot it too, and he got
Yeah,
it
I could
perfectly
see-
right
I
in the
could-
mask.
Yeah,
So-
I could see Kovalchuk doing that. He had an unbelievable. He had an unbelievable shot. I mean, especially when that shut off the pass that he used to take.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's see. Anthony's saying, "Fuck the Pens." I can get
I
behind
could
that.
definitely be with him on that one.
Right. Me Metal Mike saying, "What's up, fellas? Currently helping out my local youth hockey club at the moment. Check in saying hi. Well, hey, man, appreciate you helping out the local hockey youth. That's always an important thing to give back to the community and always an important thing to help out any hockey programs wherever they are. So big ups to you." And saying, I think the Flyers will be in the middle of the pack this season. I think that's like a best case scenario for the Flyers. I think where last week I pretty much said if things go right, they're finishing 6th place. And I think I stand behind that. I think if we have the best season we can have, it's 6th place and lower. I think if we have the worst season, we're obviously 8th. But, I think 6th is our best shot this year. If we get 5th place, like somebody said it last week, I was like, I'm throwing a damn party because there's no reason we should be in 5th place. Not this year.
Especially with
That's
Pittsburgh getting a
asking-
little stronger, and they could have been
that's
one of those
asking
teams.
before
Right.
Before Pittsburgh got Carlson, I was thinking, maybe it could happen, but I don't think so now.
Right.
That's a major score for them, unfortunately.
Pete saying, "Yo, fam, what's up, Pete?"
What's up, brother?
Swoopy saying, "I have to agree with the poll because I believe the Devils' goaltending is a big issue. Otherwise, the New Jersey Devils would win the conference."
Yeah.
And he also goes on to say, "So is Matvey Michkov going to play center going forward?"
I think
Yeah,
so. He's
yes.
been getting a lot of run for Scott at center, and he's been looking really good. He's just such a versatile player. He can play both positions well. Oh, my God. I'm 6th to midnight player right here.
Do you think
Yeah.
you might have a new crush?
If we ever get him over here, yeah.
Yeah, I will say this though, it's not going to hurt him to play a couple of years in Russia.
No.
So young.
It will not hurt him. He's not going to get injured. Nothing like that's going to happen. It's not likely that it's going to happen, at least. Yeah,
Right.
no, I hear you, but it's not as
Evil
physical.
office.
But yeah, but the Russians don't play physical hockey. Their hockey is ballet. Come on, let's be. I mean, it's very skillful, but they're about as physical as the ballet. So
that's why the Broad Street Bullies chase them off the ice. But
exactly, they got their panties in a bunch, and they and their high heels in a bunch, and they ran off the ice until they were told no. Until they were told if you don't get your asses back on the ice, you're not going to get the MONEY moolah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they came back.
And then the Flyers proceeded to beat the shit out of them some more.
Right.
So there you go.
They had to put up with what everybody else had to put up with in the NHL.
Right. I bet you they were all thinking like, Jesus, this is what the league is like? Well, no, that's just what it's like playing the Flyers at that time.
Exactly. Or the Bruins.
Right. So Swoopy saying, well, let me clarify. Is center going to be his first focus over the wing position? He'll likely be switched all over from what it seems, but why? Keep him at the wing.
No. Think about all the marquee players in this league. What position did they play? All the center, all your captains. You talk about, this is supposed to be our Connor Bedard, right? Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, right? Center, Claude Giroux, center that can play the wing, right? It's like, honestly, I mean, like, yeah, you could have him focus on the wing and focus on scoring, and then all of a sudden you take a guy that could have been multidimensional and streamline him. I think you want to encourage the versatility. I think it's only going to make him a well-rounded player. And if he shows more, promise on the wing, okay, all right, then I'm all for it. But I'm just a fan of him getting play at center.
There's just one thing, Rob. He's gonna have to, as a center, you have to play defense too.
Right.
When you're a wing, your defensive responsibility isn't nearly what it is as a center, because basically when there's a rush, the center is the one that comes back and covers the middle.
Right.
While the defensemen are covering the outside. So, that's very important. That's really a big part of being a center. That's why a lot of guys can't play center.
Right.
That's a tough call. Plus, also, I would assume
you got to go with it. You got to make him one.
I think, I'm all for it, developing his defensive skills and making him a well-rounded 200-foot player.
Yeah.
I would assume as well that when Michkov comes over, I'm assuming that they're going to try and groom him a little bit to wear an A. Probably not a C, because I'm assuming Coots is still going to have it. So keeping that in mind, I would assume they're going to want him to wear an A. So I would assume they would want him to do defensive responsibilities as well, to try and be more of a leader on the team. That would be my assumption when he would come over. And let's see here. Swoopy's saying Roddy's team actually played better than Florida because they gave it their all every shift. They just got beat. They need more scoring. We all agree on that. They definitely need more scoring on that Hurricane squad.
And they were minus some guys too.
Yeah,
that too.
Svechnikov was a huge loss.
Right.
Didn't they? They only got Vatanen back towards the very end of that series, I believe.
Yeah, and it wasn't what's his Nate? How do you pronounce his name? Nakic? Natchez. Yeah, he wasn't healthy either. I think he was playing, but he was banged up.
Right. And let's see. Typical Canucks Dork 666 saying, let's say we won Game 7 on a technicality and not burn the city. So Game 7 you win on it. Which Game 7? Are we talking 2011 or are we talking 94? Which one are we going with here? That's the big question.
Or are we talking any of the games against the Islanders in 1980?
With
Richard Brodeur's team.
Yeah.
Not
what
Marty
a
Brodeur,
weird
Richard Brodeur's team with Vancouver.
What were you going to say, Rob?
What a weird multi-dimension that would be, where the Canucks won in 94, right? And the city didn't burn. And then you had the Rangers now 83 years away from a cup, kind of almost approaching Red Sox territory. I don't want to live in that world.
No. The shame. Yeah. Well, actually, to be fair, if Brad, everything still goes the way it goes. That just is the only thing that changed, and Brad's still on the show. The joy of it is when the Rangers lost in the playoffs, we could have done a 1940 chant. It would have been valid.
Oh, back then, no.
If everything had stayed the same except that one thing changed in 94, the Canucks won instead of the Rangers.
That would be, yeah. You know what? The Rangers did everything they could to make sure to lose that series. They had a 3-1 lead, and then they blew Game 5. They didn't show up in Game 5. They were too busy celebrating, and then they go back to Vancouver for Game 6 and get their asses handed to them.
Well,
they got murdered that game. That was a terrible game.
Well, didn't they make the foolish mistake of the reporter saying that they already had the locker room covered up for the wine celebration and everything because everybody just assumed they were going to win that night? And next thing you know, Vancouver pushes Game 7. And I think Mike Keenan even said, that's all I had to show them to inspire those guys. I'm not surprised they won.
Yeah.
So
Nathan Lafayette hitting the crossbar with 12 minutes to go in the third period.
I'm sure
clinging to that 3-2 lead. That was the long when Vancouver scored to make it 3-2. I think there was 18 minutes to go in the third period. That was the longest 18 minutes of hockey I've ever watched in my life.
I'm sure the super cynical younger Brad Ryer was beyond ready to start strangling people after that loss in Game 6.
I was expecting them to lose because they just and Richter all of a sudden looked really bad because Richter used to be one of those guys when he was hot nobody can beat him, but he'd have these weird streaks where he just looked terrible.
Right.
And for 2 games, he looked terrible, and I was like, "Oh my god!" If he played like that in Game 7, we're so done. But he was great in Game 7. He really was.
What a time to wake up. Be like, hey, kid,
Yeah.
you're in the Garden, and if you lose tonight, you lose the cup, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So let's see here. Typical Canucks are saying, also, my prediction for the Metro, I'm going with the New Jersey Devils. So he would agree with the poll that we had yesterday. Or yesterday, last week, yesterday. Could you imagine every day? Be a little hard to stay on topical with it being the off season. Canucks are saying also Carter Hart with Carolina, Seattle, or Detroit, or Toronto, which would be a nasty fit.
None of the above.
Right, none of the above with the Flyers, but. All right, taking off the goggles on the fair side of it, I would say that if you threw him in with Carolina, I think Carolina gets back into the conversation of being a cup contender. Because right now we're all kind of suspect on their goaltending. If you put Carter Hart there, I would assume at that point the Hurricanes, they absolutely would have to be in the final. Because if they can't make the final with Hart and that defense, then they don't even deserve to be in the Stanley Cup final.
What about Toronto, Matty?
If he goes to Toronto, here's the problem. Toronto has always had an iffy defense at times. So I've always kind of been a little suspect on them. As for Carolina, I feel like it'd be a better fit for him, honestly. Nothing against Toronto's offense, but that's the problem. The offense does great. Their defense and their goaltending tends to let them down in the long run, and that's what kills them for the most part at the end of the day.
Yeah, they give up too many goals in the playoffs. That's always been their problem.
Right. And they're still having trouble with that even today.
And they still, you know what? They don't really score all that much.
Which is weird.
Yeah, they don't score a lot in the playoffs. For whatever reason, that's a problem they seem to have.
Well, to be fair, they have come up across Andrei Vasilevsky for the last 2 years, so that's not going to help. And even if Vazzy's not necessarily on his A game, his B and C game are some guy's A game. So it's understandable that they're having a little bit of trouble with that. The next round, they ran into Florida, and Florida just said, hey, you know what? We want to go on like a magic run, so you don't mind if we just dump all over you in this series, right? Cool? All right, cool. We're in agreement. By the way, congratulations on winning your first series at 0-4. I know that was a big deal for you guys, but we're going to go win the East. Thank you.
Well, you know what? I will say this. I've never been so happy to see them win a series as when they just absolutely made mincemeat out of the Devils.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they killed them. That was one. That was as bad a series as you'd ever see.
The Devils really got exposed in that series against Carolina. There's a lot of heart with that Devils team, but there's still some question marks that they have to address before they're ready to make that gigantic leap. Although I think for the most part in this offseason, they've been looking to address those issues. So we'll see what happens if the rematch comes around between Carolina and the Devils. It probably will. It's more likely than not with the way the playoffs work this day and age. Swoopy saying Darcy Kemper won it for Colorado, I thought. Oh, yes, you're right. My bad. Still same thing. Kemper's not necessarily not a bad goaltender, but again, not necessarily a world beater, but at the end of the day, riding a really good team, he got the job done. You are right, Swoopy. My bad on that one. I forgot Grubauer was out by that time. But then he gets revenge the next year by eliminating them. Typical Nucks are saying, my hottest take, Seattle wins the cup against the Rangers. Whew!
Oh, boy, that would kind of...
Damn. That's not hot. That shit's on fire. Like, holy shit. I mean, nothing against Seattle. I loved what Seattle did this past year because it was amazing. But I don't know. There's still some tough teams that they got to try and get through in the West just to get to the Stanley Cup Finals and then to face the Rangers. And, yeah, I know we could dunk on the Rangers all day. I mean, I don't mind doing it. But at the same time, let's be honest here. The Rangers are not a bad team. Even though they tried to make a valid case for that against the Devils. They're not a bad team. Let's see here. The Goathead Saber 1995. Hey, let's face Philly again in the playoffs. No, absolutely not. No. I don't want to. No,
I'm all for it, Matty. Because if that happens, that meant the Flyers made the playoffs this year.
Oh,
I don't care who we're facing. That means the Flyers
That would be
way overwent their projections. And John Tortorella would finally win that Jack Adams.
Right.
All the Flyers need to do is make the
would.
playoffs with this team, and he's a lot.
He would be, if they made the playoffs this year, he would be worshipped. That would be quite
Yeah.
the job.
Philadelphians be kissing the ground that man walked on. Like,
Yeah,
seriously.
I don't know that that's possible. Not right now, anyway.
I'll be honest with you, though. I still really don't want to face the Sabres in the playoffs because I hated those playoff series. I hated them so very fucking much. I hated 2011, and I knew the Flyers were going to win that one. So,
Well, the way the Sabres used to play was kind of annoying too.
right.
That was part of it. It seemed like they were never really trying to score. It always seemed like they were just waiting for you to like, you'd put on the pressure and their goalie would stop everything, and then eventually you'd make a mistake and they'd score on a breakaway. Meanwhile, you'd be out shooting them 20-5, but they had 2-0 because those are the kind of teams I used to hate.
That was what the Sabres used to do in the 90s because they had fucking Hasek. So it's just like, why do we need to score? We'll just have Hasek stop everything because he does it every night. So.
And then we'll get the rebound. Somebody will be goal hanging at center ice, and we'll score on a breakaway.
Right.
And break the other team's heart. And that's what they basically used to do. And they had the guys to do it too.
Right. That's what made the Sabres such a pain in the ass back in the day. It's just like, God damn it. It's like, will you guys just go away, please? It's
guys like the Turtle, Dave Andrewchuk, guys like them.
Yes.
They never missed when they had breakaways.
No.
It was infuriating.
But then in the early 2000s, they started getting some skill players. Then they got Jason Pominville, Thomas Vanek, Maxim Afinoganov, who pretty much only did anything with the Sabres. And then Shatan.
Don't forget Briere.
Briere for that period, yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Satan.
Yeah, Satan was on their team for that time. And that team had Ryan Miller, and it's just like,
yeah.
We face those guys like, what the fuck? It's like, you guys for the longest time didn't have goal scorers. Now all you do is score goals. Can you make up your fucking mind, please? Do you want to be defensive or do you want to score goals? You can't have both.
Yeah, well, they.
Let's see. Go to Sabre Knife. I said Sabres versus Rangers conference finals go 7 games. Oh, I don't know. How do you feel about that one, Brad?
Levi was pretty good last year in the second half of the season when they brought him up. But what's it? They always say, don't ever believe what you see at the end of March or in September.
Right.
When it comes to baseball, the same applies to hockey, especially goalies. Because a lot of times they're coming up and they're coming up and nobody really knows their weaknesses or their strengths, and they haven't been exposed yet. So we'll see. He sure as hell looked good though. I thought he was exceptionally good. The 2 games that they beat the Rangers.
I will say this.
Last year.
Taking the blinders off for that, the Sabres finally look like they actually are going in the right direction. It's been a long, trying experience for Sabres fans, and it finally looks like they're starting to get their shit together. Do they still have a lot of work to do? I think they still have a lot of work to do, but at the same time, they're finally looking like they're projecting it, and they're going in the right direction. Finally, it took a long time, but it seems like they're finally starting to get it together here.
Maddie, if you're the Sabres, you have to go out and get Connor Hellebuck.
I would think so. You want to get at goaltender, and you want to make that happen. You want to see if this team can get into that wild card hunt and actually make it happen. Because if they can, and they get in and surprise everybody, who knows what they can do?
Well, I'll tell you what, they've got a really good minor league system. They have a lot of prospects. That's what I'm saying. If a team had the capital to bring him in, they had the draft capital, or I should say the prospect capital, and of course they still have money to spend too. So they're the one team that could definitely bring Hellebuck in. I just pray to God it's not the Devils, because I would hate to see that. Hate to see him on that team. That wouldn't bode well.
I hate to see anybody on the Devils, but
the guy. Listen, Brian's goalie over in Anaheim. He doesn't really scare me if the Devils got him.
What, Gibson?
Gibson, he doesn't really.
I
A
see.
couple of years ago, yeah, but he has not played. I know that they've had a bad defense, but he hasn't really played well in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, if you feel like you're slumming it, I'm not saying Gibson does this, but sometimes it does happen. Some guys kind of get a little lackadaisical. But then when you get to that team that, they really got the shot, they really got it going, it's like, okay, time to turn it back on. I mean, hell, look at it this way.
I agree with you. I agree with you about that. But again, it's just he really hasn't shown a lot of good form. That's all. I mean, he just wasn't.
Right, I got you.
Just like Saros this year wasn't very good. Wasn't really all that great with Nashville this year either.
Well, yeah, but I think this was the sign of Nashville really needs to retool here because they're not what they used to be.
Well, they made him not look as good as they should.
Right.
I thought that was a lot on them too.
Well, also they put a lot on Saros, and that's a lot to put on him. They put about as much on him as they did Rene. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
The Preds in there.
Rene did it all by himself half the time.
Right. So it's like it's like that's a lot to ask on a guy. You bring him in. You're like, hey, can you be the next Pecorine? It's like, yeah, sure. I got all. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And my team does. We have a couple of really good players that can score a little bit, but we don't really score a lot either.
Right, but for the most part, we do about fuck all. So you can handle that, right?
And our fans are extremely, extremely mean. So when we score, they verbally humiliate the goaltender after every goal. So
right, the catfish people are pretty relentless at times.
Oh, they're the best. That chant is the best. It's all you suck. It's all your fault. I got it. I mean. That's original, and I got to give them full props for that.
Let's see here. Meme Metal Mike saying, hottest take, Penguins get swept by the Arizona Coyotes this year in the Cup. Woo!
I know. They got Matt Dumba, so now they're going to win the Cup.
Right. Mike, hey, listen, I don't think you should be taking any illegal substances around children because you clearly are if you're thinking that's your Cup final. I'm just saying, brother. I'm just saying. Should probably not do that.
Yeah, leave that one on the shelf.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if the Penguins go on a run and get to the Cup Finals, which kind of makes me sick to my stomach just saying that out loud, but Arizona, like, holy shit, the whole West just had an off year. That if the Coyotes are going to the final, holy shit!
If every team's first, second, and third line got COVID.
Right, and they just permanent COVID for the year.
Yeah. Right, and their minor league teams had to come out. Then maybe Arizona would have a shot.
Right. Even then, they'd probably have to go to several 7-game series just to get the job done.
Yeah, they'd have a problem beating some of the minor league teams.
Oh, my God. Jim Infla saying, boys, it is great to be a Penguins fan this evening. Well, yes, congratulations on winning the Carlson sweepstakes. I know it's definitely something that we've been anticipating for a while.
Yeah, you're going to be back you're definitely going to be back in the playoffs, I would imagine.
Saying Crosby, Malkin, Carlson, Raquel, Gensel. Who's stopping that power play?
You sure Gensel's going to be playing now?
Yeah, Gensel still kind of hurt.
Gensel can't walk right now. So I'm just saying, he's probably going to miss the first month of the season.
Although I bet you he's probably on a crutch, gone to the Penguins saying, "Fuck it, just tape it up and I'll put my skate on and I'll do it."
He's a hockey player. I mean, of course he's going to do that, but yeah, I mean, listen. God bless him, but I just don't know with that team. It's strange, but I really feel like, and maybe I'm nuts to think this, but do you think that they really missed Evan Rodriguez? Do you think that was a big part of it? Because I do.
I think Rodriguez.
He really played really well for that team.
I think Rodriguez is is a good one to bring up because he is a good leader out there on the ice. And so, yeah, that is a tough one. You know, you think about it, Rodriguez is one of those guys where you kind of forget sometimes he's there, and that's your mistake because Rodriguez is one of those players that's a very important part of the machine that helps keep it going, you know, and those are the kind of players you can't replace, you know.
A pest that can score.
Right, and a guy who's going to kind of get that team up and running and get them going, you know, like those are the kind of players you don't replace easy. And not everybody can do that role, and he is one of those guys. So, yeah, I definitely would say that's a factor into what happened with the Penguins there.
Yeah, I would agree about the their power play. Their power play is going to be pretty darn good.
It will be. Anthony saying, where's a good dating site to pick up hockey chicks? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Try hockeychicks.com.
I bet you it exists too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, don't like make like, you know. With my luck, it's probably some porn site. And everybody's going to think that I'm some kind of a hockey pervert or something. But
I mean,
my luck.
You kind of already have admitted this multiple times over the week of being a hockey pervert, but you know it's okay.
Listen, I made the mistake of trying to pay my Easy Pass once online, and I got I somehow I went into Easy Pass, and it wasn't that. It wasn't the tolls. It was the Easy Pass. And it's like, oh boy. I was like, ugh.
Lesson learned the hard way.
Yeah, and not in a good way.
Ooh, well, that's a nice dagger in the heart. The Nationals just tied the game up with a 2-run home run from Meneses. And
he had been struggling.
Yeah, he just smacked one. So let's see here. Me, Metal Mike, 5 favorite Flames players from any decade. Ooh, that's a tough one to answer there. We'll put a cap in that because when we get to the Central Division, the Pacific Division, we'll definitely talk about
Anybody remember Tom Lysiak?
I actually don't. So
he was a heck of a player. Fun player. When he was with Atlanta.
That explains it.
Yeah.
With the Atlanta Flames.
Yeah. He was a white man with an Oscar Gamble kind of haircut.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Not many people could do that.
No, well, he had it out. He had it out to here, literally. I mean, it was, and he didn't wear a helmet, so he, you know.
So let's see here. Well, Hathaway will be an interesting addition to the Flyers there, Swoopy. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think he's a real good player.
So let's jump in, gentlemen, to the first period.
The Icelanders.
Yeah. The first period here brought to you by eXp Realty. If you are looking to buy or sell a home, or you have a change of career or brokerage, then you're going to want to contact Alan Foy at eXp Realty LLC. You give him a call at 302-682-8820 or visit him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. It's a big move in life when you change homes, you sell a home, or you have a change of career, and you're going to want to do it right, and Alan Foy is the way to go to make sure it's done the right way. Also, for all the fam out there throwing out the comments, which we love chatting with you guys. You're brought to you by Gleason's Bar, located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, PA. Use promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or you go online at Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com. All right, gentlemen. So back to the matter at hand, and that is the New York Rangers. So the Rangers last year definitely didn't go the way they wanted to. Back to the drawing board, as they say. And with that, the Rangers have been making some moves here. And the question is, do you think the Rangers can do a little bit better this go-around as opposed to what happened last year? Do you see them not only getting back into the playoffs, but actually going on a run, possibly like the poll says, to the Eastern Conference Finals, or maybe even further to the Stanley Cup Finals? I know we talked about it a little bit. Is there anything you guys want to add on to that with the Rangers in terms of them improving from what happened last year?
I think the key to the Rangers improving is Lafreniere and Kakko having big years. Both of them getting 20 to 25 goals, and Hedl hitting 30. Hedl finally broke through last year on the third line and scored 24 goals. Okay, I want to see that out of Kakko, and I want to see that out of Laffy. If I see that, okay, then we'll be fine. I think they can definitely get to that point. They really, if you look at the whole team, and I'm talking about offense, defense, and goaltending, they've got it all. They just need depth scoring from those two guys, and if they get it, then they're going to be a real tough team to deal with in the playoffs. And I definitely think they can get to that point again. And you know what? There's no more Boston anymore, because without Patrice Bergeron, forget about that team.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. I don't care who they have on their team. Without Patrice Bergeron, they are not doing jack poop next year.
And ironically, their biggest odds to win the East are higher than the Rangers. Can you figure that out?
Well, you know what? If you think losing Patrick Kane is as big a loss as losing Patrice Bergeron, the way Patrick Kane played last year, I think it's addition by subtraction.
Wow.
So. I think the stat makers in Vegas are. I think they're going a little bit based off of what happened last year. Not always a good idea with hockey.
No. They will change as the season approaches and into the season for sure.
No, and you know what? Linus Ullmark was not good in the playoffs.
I mean, he was good in the first 3 games. And then
okay, but there is no way in God's name Boston should have lost that series to Florida. I don't care. I don't care what you could tell me. Miracle Run, Destiny, blah 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 blah. No.
You know what it is?
Not after what Vegas did. Vegas took them basically took them to the woodshed, pulled off all their clothes, took a paddle and just whacked them in the butt about 50,000 times. And they were saying, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?"
What I will say is that you know what I'm going to call that? I'm going to call Boston's curse the curse of the asshole fans, because every 5 minutes they were chanting, "We want the cup," and they were singing "Sweet Caroline," and every time they did it, Boston got scored on. It's like, you know what? That's your own damn fault. You jinxed your own damn team out of the playoffs. This is what you did. That's on you. And you know what? I have absolutely no sympathy from you. Absolutely none whatsoever. Go to last place. The world will be very grateful if Boston starts living in squalor. Thank you very much. So, moving on. For the Rangers, I would say, obviously they did shed a few things. Didn't Tarasenko also is no longer with the Rangers, if I stand correct?
That's correct.
So they shedded a lot of players. Honestly, they did better without the guys than with them. So
yeah, I mean that's the thing. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they got all the way to the third round. So
they were worse defensively with those two guys.
Right. So
they really were. They those guys were not good defensively. They were really bad. Kane especially. He was terrible defensively. He couldn't get back and play defense. And Tarasenko is Tarasenko. I like Tarasenko. Love Tarasenko. Would love to have him back. But he's kind of a one-way player too.
Well, Tarasenko is very highly offensive. I think that's why he was brought to the Rangers. And
absolutely. I mean, he was playing with Mika Zibanejad, which was kind of perfect because, and Kreider, because Mika Zibanejad is one of the best defensive centers in the league. So, they could get away with having him up on the first line.
I will say this. I think that the Rangers, here's the one thing that they got to be careful of. it's one thing to go hire some mercs and make a couple of trades here and there to get some guys who might be aging and getting close to aging out or retiring. But I will say that this is where you got to be careful because, and I know this from firsthand experience with the Flyers, playing around with the core, trading away draft picks, all to try and get over that hump of finally getting into the final and finally trying to make it happen. Sometimes that's more dangerous to be here than it is to be a team struggling and trying to get in. You know, because when you're a team struggling trying to get in, it's okay because you just got to make some adjustments. But when you're perennially contending, if you fuck around with it a little too much, you might wind up causing your team to have setbacks. And once you start having setbacks and you trade away a heart and soul player and you don't get a heart and soul player back, you've murdered your team. And that's something
I agree, but who's really the heart and soul player they traded?
They haven't. But I'm just saying that it's something
not
to
yet
keep,
anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes teams get desperate. And when they start getting desperate, they start making some really head-scratching decisions. And again, first-hand experience, how many times did the Flyers do it? I mean, the Flyers made some very head-scratching trades, and especially just this past decade alone.
Head-scratching trades too. I mean, listen,
that's what I'm saying.
For Sammy Bly.
Why, you didn't like that deal?
No, not at all. And he sucked so bad, the Rangers cut him, and then he's back on St. Louis scoring goals. I mean, what?
He was a sleeper agent. He was there just to hurt the Rangers. That's what it was.
Listen, they haven't. Listen, not every trade they've made has worked out well, but I would say that for the most part, and again, giving up a first-round pick for Tarasenko. Remember, they gave up Dallas's first-round pick.
Right, they didn't give up their own, so there is that.
They traded a guy. They traded a guy, Nils Lundqvist, who was, a really good young prospect, a good young defenseman that wasn't going to play for the Rangers. Okay, and they got a first-round pick, Dallas's first-round pick for him. Okay, so they used that first-round pick to get Tarasenko. So they kept their own, which ended up being Perrault. So when you look at it, okay, so they traded Lundqvist for Kane. That was worth the gamble. Lundqvist didn't even play in the playoffs for Dallas last year.
Right.
He's not playing on their team right now. He's in their minor league system too. So really, did we give up all that much?
No, but that's the thing. It's not that the Rangers are giving up a ton yet. It's just that when you get into this stage where it's just like you keep getting in and you keep falling short, you then see GMs start to feel the heat, and then they start making some really questionable moves. And that's when you start hurting your team in the long run instead of, sticking with it a little bit. I know it's the hardest thing in the world sometimes to say, listen, you got to stay a little loyal. I know it's painful when you lose and you want answers and you want to put some heads on some pikes because you're like, this is bullshit. We should have won the cup this year. There's no reason we should have lost to this team. And it's very hard for a GM to kind of keep their hands off of the panic button when things like that happen because, they got to answer to the owners. So...
Right. That's why they fired the. Well, that's why they fired the. That's why they fired the coach. You can't fire the players, so you fire the coach.
Right. And even that sometimes is a mistake because sometimes the coach is the guy those players play for him. They don't play for anybody else, and he puts somebody else in there, and it doesn't work out.
Oh, that could happen.
Right.
And I don't think just based on Laviolette's history, I don't see that happening because just and in general, when you make big time coaching moves with teams that are right on the right on the cusp of possibly winning a championship, usually the first year it really works out great. Sometimes it ends up like with Vigneault with the Rangers. The first year he took over for Tortorella's teams always just fell a little short.
Right.
This time, when Vigneault took over, they were able to score enough goals, and they were able to get to the finals. Now, unfortunately, they just played a team that was just too big and too strong, and they couldn't stop. They got worn down every game. That's why they kept blowing leads in the third period against them.
Right.
And then losing in double overtime. But I mean, that's just sometimes that happens though. And sometimes you just need a different coach and a different voice in the room to get over the hump.
Right. So with that, that's just the only thing I wanted to say, because again, we've seen it happen in every sport. We see it happen with teams that should win championships, and then you go back in the history and you're like, how did they not win anything? And then you realize, that's how, because they did this, and that sank them after that. So just something to keep in mind as you move forward with the Rangers. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that it's possible if things don't go the right way.
Listen, if their power play struggles again like it did last year, and they have trouble scoring 5-on-5, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem. Okay, they got to get back. They got to get back to scoring 25% on the power play, and being at least an even 5-on-5 team.
Right.
Okay, they can't do what they did last year. That can't happen.
By the way, Anthony says that Patrick Kane is the best player on the Rangers.
He's not on the Rangers anymore.
And Anthony also said it couldn't be any worse than the Hawks not making the Stanley Cup or even the playoffs because of the scandal. Well, there's a lot more reasons than the sex scandal that, took over for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, the whole team got old, and they kept them, and they kept them, and they kept them.
Right.
They moved guys along, and they kept trading their first-round picks, to a point where they didn't have any for, 4 or 5 years? That's what the Kings did. You will win, but it does catch up to you eventually.
It will. Only difference is the Blackhawks, could actually come back and say, well, was it the end of the world? Not really, because you won 3 cups. Yeah. So it eases that pain a little bit.
Yeah. Listen, you come off winning 3 cups. Okay. Yeah. So you rebuild. If people want to troll you, okay. Troll us. We still found a way to win 3 Stanley Cups.
Right.
What rings are you polishing these days?
Right. How many teams they beat that were really good that didn't win anything? I know a team from the West that did that a lot. Yeah. So
they're busy polishing something else.
Right.
Oh boy. Oh no.
Me Metal Mike saying, what if Igor starts off real poorly?
You stick with him.
Yeah,
he's proven to be your franchise goaltender now at this point, right?
I would assume. If he starts off real poor, it's just like, well, what are you going to do? Bench him? It's like, I don't know if that's going to help the situation.
Give some breathers here and there.
If Igor starts off poorly,
yeah,
you do know who their backup goalie is, right?
Oh, Jonathan Quick.
Yeah. Is Jonathan Quick? I didn't realize he was chopped liver.
He's not chopped liver, but he's
not Jonathan Quick 2011.
No, but he's a tremendous backup to have, and maybe spell Igor if he is off to a rough start. But I think the question here is stemming from the tail end of the playoffs, them having Jonathan Quick. Could he potentially be the starter over him? No, because he's not that same. It's the name recognition. Igor's your starter. That's it. I'm stating the obvious.
Absolutely. And if Igor gets, but if Igor's not going to play 2 games in a row during the season. Right. And the difference between Quick and Halak, I think I'd rather have Quick than Halak as a backup goalie. And I wouldn't be afraid to have Quick if God forbid Igor got hurt and missed a couple of weeks. I wouldn't be afraid to see Quick in goal for a couple of weeks. That wouldn't kill him. If he got hurt and Halak was playing for 2 or 3 weeks, that would be rough to watch.
Right.
We'd have to score 4 or 5 goals every night, and that's not easy.
No,
not in the NHL.
Right.
Me Metal Mike saying, which young goaltender in the Metro will surprise a lot of people?
Young goaltender in the Metro. Are there any?
Well, Igor's not anymore.
Igor's 26 now.
Yeah, and Hart
he's not
obviously no, because
Hart's not
Hart
yet.
doesn't qualify for that because
No.
he's been in the league now for 4 years.
And the Islanders goalie is a veteran now.
Sorokin.
Sorokin. Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
around a while now.
Carolina has Anderson, and he's been around for a while.
He's not young.
No.
No, and neither one of Boston's goalies are young. Oh, Swayman is pretty young, but I mean, he's
Well, Boston's in the Atlantic, so that
Yeah,
wouldn't qualify.
that's right. You know what? I'm thinking of baseball in the East Division. Sorry.
Sorry.
Senior moment.
Columbus has Corpusalo.
No, Columbus's goaltending is less than what would you call it? Less than adequate.
Corpy is not a bad goalie. He's just on a bad team. He wasn't bad. He's not a bad.
I know the word. Less than exemplary.
There you go.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah.
It's hard getting that engine running up there.
Yeah, there you go.
Sometimes you gotta give it a little old push.
Yeah. Sometimes
All right, I got one.
What?
I got one potentially. You know, there's been a lot of talk with Sam Harrison getting the 2-year deal. You know, winning the job is not winning the job, but at least being set up for being Hart's backup. What if he were to continue that good play, right, and start getting more run as the starter? Proving all the Hart haters correct, and he runs and gets the Flyers into the playoffs. I mean, that's very far fetched, but.
If that happens, then unfortunately, everybody who wants to trade Hart, I think they've officially have willed it into existence.
Yeah, exactly. but also Hart himself. You know what I mean? As a 24-year-old. So I mean, either one of the Flyers goaltenders.
Right, I got you. Besides that. I know Jim said Jari, but Jari's known, and Jari is a really good goalie. We've seen him before with the Penguins.
It was the first name that came in my mind, though, Jim. I was, and then I looked up and saw his age or whatever. But I was actually thinking he was 26.
Still, though, it's understandable.
Right.
I can't really think of anybody else because. There's not really that many young goaltenders. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're still young because they're still south of, 30. But, it's like it's one of those things of when I'm looking at it from, we've never really seen these guys like do a full season. You know what I mean? Or we haven't seen these guys really get the nod to be the full-time starter. That to me would be like like if this was 4 or 5 years ago and Igor was just coming in, then I'd be like, okay, he would definitely surprise a lot of people because we don't know him. We had no idea. All we know is that he's the prince. He's the heir apparent to Lundqvist's throne.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, Georgiev was actually the number one goalie back then.
Right.
When he first came in. And Georgiev was playing real well. Nobody had figured him out.
American Loyalist given 199. Thank you. Saying Logan Thompson. That would be the Atlantic Division, unfortunately, because he's in Buffalo.
Yeah, and I think Levi is the young goaltender that they have that everybody noticed last year, especially if you're a Ranger fan. He beat the Rangers twice and was sensational.
My bad. Tage Thompson's in Buffalo.
Logan Thompson. That's the Vegas Golden Knights, no?
Right. I think that's what that's the team.
Okay. Yeah, but he's in the West. He's not. We're talking about the Metro.
Right.
I think he's just talking overall young goaltenders in the league.
Yeah. Kemper is Washington's goalie. So I'm trying to think if there's really any.
I don't think so.
Good young goalies. I mean, if you want to call Schmid on the Devils.
No, because I mean, Schmidt had his moment in the sun, but I don't know. Can he continue to perform at a high level for full 82 in the NHL?
No, he'll be back in the USHL by the middle of the season.
I'm not trying to immediately,
he'll be the new John Druce.
Okay.
I don't know
You
if
know,
you guys remember John Truce. He scored about 10 goals against the Rangers in a playoff series one year.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and then the following season, after 20 games, he was back in the minor leagues again, never to be heard from again.
He had his moment in the spotlight.
Yeah,
What were you going to say, Robbie?
John Truce.
I thought, Mike, Merzlikins for a second, but he's actually 29, 30 years old.
Elvis has been around a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Yeah.
yeah.
And
All
so-
those Elvis has left the building jokes from.
And so's Halak, by the way. Halak's been around for a while too.
Halak is 106 now, right?
Right, compared to some of the goalies that you find in the Metro.
Yeah. No, he's
Like,
old.
I remember when in 2008 he was the Montreal Canadiens starring goaltender and the Flyers freaking kicked his ass.
I can remember when he was on the Islanders and the Rangers couldn't score against him if they had an open net.
Shit, I remember him when he was driving a car with, no gas pedal. He was pedaling it with his feet. You know what I mean? Flintstone style.
Wasn't he driving Fred and Wilma?
Yeah.
They were going to that drive-in. And let's see here. Jim saying, everyone's saying the Penguins are old. NHL Network pointed out tonight that the Rangers have the same amount of 30-plus-year-old players as the Penguins. 12.
That's true. Their average age is up there too, but Penguins lead the league in that department. I mean, or at least they did prior to the Erik Karlsson deal. Because they lost Petrie, who was old, an older player.
Yeah, Kreider, Zibanejad, and Panarin are all in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Email my saying Gibson and Halak as your Flyers tandem, or Lundqvist and Fleury as your Islanders tandem. Well, I definitely wouldn't want to see Lundqvist and Fleury on the Islanders, because that would mean that the Islanders had a pretty damn good tandem right there. So I guess I'll go with Gibson and Halak.
Yeah.
You could do far worse for your goaltending tandem.
Yeah. Oh no! Listen, Halak in his prime was pretty darn good.
He was.
He was no joke.
I remember Halak was in that when Fujifilm cameras were out in stores.
Well done. Keep the old jokes coming. I love dad old jokes. Come on.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's good.
Good one.
All right, gents. So let's move on over to the second period. Yes, Robbie.
I did have one last point about the Rangers before we moved on.
Go right ahead.
It's a big elephant in the room too. I mean, the Rangers are heading into the season with a new head coach after firing Gerard Gallant last season.
Right, Laviolette.
Yeah, coming in with Lavi. Now, mind you, similar systems, so I think the transition won't be as abrupt as you see most coaching changes, as well as, Laviolette's been around the block and he'll have a full camp going into the season. But it is a question mark in terms of we're talking about a team taking that next step over what they did last year and winning the Eastern Conference Finals. Will that transition behind the bench, will there be some rough spots or will it be smooth sailing? That's yet to be seen.
I think that's going to be smooth sailing. I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. I mean, Laviolette has been around the Metropolitan Division for a long freaking time. So this isn't something new for him.
Right.
So I don't see it as being a problem. Their situations are sort of similar. Laviolette is I think a much better offensive coach than Gallant. I think that's gonna help. Remember, he has actually won a Stanley Cup, which is not something Gallant ever did. He did get to the finals, but I think they were right to get rid of him. I think it had to happen. They needed a change.
Right. And while I agree with everything that you're saying, Brad, still it's a new person in the locker room with new players, and you never know how that's going to mesh.
True. And listen, last time the Rangers did something like this, bless you, by the way.
That came out of nowhere.
The last time the Rangers did this, okay, they got rid of Tortorella, and because Tortorella said a bad word to Sather, and Sather didn't like it, and they brought in Alain Vigneault.
Was it
And
cocksucker? Did he call him a cocksucker? That's what I heard.
well, with Tortorella, he could have been worse than that. I mean, God only knows what he said to him, but apparently they got into an incredibly nasty fight. So, but in any event, they went the last time they did something like this. They went from Tortorella to Alain Vigneault, and they got to the finals because it was a different voice. He opened up the offense a little bit more, and I think that you're going to see. I think you're going to see the same thing happening.
Right.
Okay, and I also think that there are a couple of guys on that defense, mainly Keandre Miller, who absolutely need to be better. I think Nikola was not good last year. I'm kind of glad he's gone. I think that Branson is going to be a huge asset to them. To have a fifth and sixth pair, a third pairing of defensemen like Schneider and Gudbranson, who both can score. That not too many teams have that. And they're not going to get overwhelmed if they're out there against the number one line either.
Right.
So, but Keandre Miller, they've got to reel him back in and not be so bad and not be so bad defensively and not enough with the key turnovers. That's one guy that has to pick up his game. Between him, I think he's going to be a pretty big key. But the Rangers just have to get back to playing well defensively and wait for their opportunities. They've got snipers. There's no reason they could beat anybody on any given night. There's no question about that.
Right. It will be.
You have a trade deadline.
Well, Lavi, the good thing about him is I think for the Rangers, if they can start scoring heavily, I think that'll help them. Yes, I know that there were the issues defensively for them, but at the same time, too, there were times where their offense decided not to show up either. So
absolutely, they had times last year where they couldn't score 5-on-5.
Right,
they were depending on their power play too much.
Right, and that's the thing, that Lavi's the kind of guy who really helps with your 5-on-5. He helped it with the Capitals and kind of propped them back up to where they kind of popped open the window that was closed there for a moment. But when I say they popped open, it was like a little tiny crack that they popped it back open to. But they wouldn't have been able to do that without Lavi, because Lavi's the kind of guy who can really help bring that into the system. And I think that would really help the Rangers. And now, especially because they're at that crossroads of, okay, this is where we need to work on and we need to get this straight, because if you want to win a cup, this is how you got to win it, because, those teams over in the Atlantic, they're only going to get better. And there are 3 teams in particular that are starting to finally put their shit together. And there are 3 teams that are currently there that are not fun to deal with as it is. And yes, you also have the Devils, which you're not going to have fun with them. And the Hurricanes.
No, and the Canes are good too.
So you're going to have some stiff competition.
Pittsburgh is going to be back again this year.
Yeah, and they're going to be feisty if they make it in. Yep. So it's one of those things of, you know what, now's the time. Get your 5-on-5 up. Get it going, get it working to the point where when you face this team, doesn't matter what you got, doesn't matter what you have, doesn't matter who you got in net, 5-on-5, they're going to find a way to score. And that was, Lavi did it with the Flyers, Lavi did it with the Predators, and that was with a team that had less offense options than the Flyers did when he got fired from them. So Lavi's done it with less. He should be able to do it with the Rangers.
Yeah, and I don't hold him responsible for what happened in Washington last year. For God's sake, they lost Carlton, Wilson, and Backstrom for at least half to 3/4 of the season. Geez.
And that's a team that's also on the decline, too. So inevitably, there was going to come a time where they were going to miss. It was going to happen at some point.
By the way, our buddy Garrett Pilon, Richie's kid, should be. I think he'd be making the team this year. Don't you think?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Didn't their team won the cup? Their team, Garrett's team, won the cup last year.
Oh, the Calder Cup.
Yeah, his team won the Calder Cup. Who did he play for? Hershey.
Yeah, Hershey's the.
Yeah, they won. They won last year, and I think he scored a shitload of goals in that in the playoffs. So I think we're gonna see him playing next year.
Well, then, yeah, he should definitely get a hell of a look.
Yeah, you would
All
think
right.
so.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting. All right, then. So now, was there anything else? I think we're good with the Rangers, right?
Yep.
All right, then. So we will move on. Anthony throwing out Halak was a net when Web TV first came out.
Ha, 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 ha. Well done.
He also said Halak is so old he was dating Betty White. I mean,
Betty White.
listen, I don't know if Halak's good enough for Betty White. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that woman had standards. So she's only going to be dating like the Lundqvists and the Brodeurs of the world. She ain't going to be dating no Halak.
No.
That's small time.
She can get you bigger fish than that.
Right.
Speaking of fish,
Speaking of fish,
are we going to be talking about the fish sticks now?
we will be talking about the fish sticks, but before we dive into the fish sticks, we do have a couple of sponsors to jump off to before we dive into all that fun. And we will be taking a quick little break here. When we return, we will have more on this sponsor, and then one more, and then we will dive into the Islanders. But for now, here is a little something from Philly Sports Trips.
Hey Birds fans, the NFL schedule has arrived and Philly Sports Trips has all the details now. Visit the site phillysportstrips.com. This is sure to be an epic season. Be sure to go there now to make sure that you don't get shut out. Join us in Tampa, LA, Seattle, or when we get revenge in Kansas City. Don't want to fly? No problem. Gather up your crew and hop aboard one of our signature boisterous bus trips to DC or New York. Sign up now and make sure to mention A2D. Don't miss out on the best Philly fan experience anywhere. Philly Sports Trip customers always stay at the best hotels and meet NFL legends. Book today.
That is right. Philly Sports Trips, Philadelphia 5 for 5 sports travel company, premium travel and tailgating experience for the passionate fans of Philadelphia. Go to phillysportstrips.com to book yourself and get in on the action for heading on down to either Washington or to Kansas City or heading out west to Seattle. Hey, some big games, or heading up to New York. Some big matchups there, a couple of rivalry games for the division, and of course a big old battle between the Super Bowl opponents in a huge rematch. So lots of fun stuff to be had for Philly Sports Trips. So join up with your Philadelphia Eagles fans and head on over to take over the other team's arena and scare the living hell out of every single one of those fans in that arena. That's what you're supposed to do. Do Philly proud.
Might be tough in Kansas City. Those are pretty passionate fans there. That's a tough one. That's asking a lot. Even when they were bad, those fans were pretty good. They came out and they were loud. So
there you go.
Good luck with that one.
But you know what? At least you're guaranteed to take over Seattle because they'll all be so high that, you'll be the only ones that'll be sober in the building. Well, maybe not because you'll be drunk, but you'll be more sober than them.
All right. The Broncos. No, I'm just kidding.
Just because weed's illegal doesn't mean everybody smokes out there. Actually, that's a lie. Everybody does.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say,
Better.
I disagree with that.
All right. And besides that, we also have all campus OC. If you're ever in New Jersey and you want to head on down to Ocean City, New Jersey, and you want to check out the shop down there, feel free to. John Coyle, who runs it, he's got a great little shop down there on the boardwalk. Also, on top of that as well, he's giving up he has special offers that he throws out to the A2D subscribers. And as well, he has plenty of great merchandise available out there for you, whether it be hats, T-shirts, or whatnot. And so head on down to Ocean City, check out All Campus, say hi to John, and get yourself some of your gear for your favorite team. All right, then. So let's dive into the New York Islanders. All right. So The Fish Sticks, last year they did not make it in, and there's been a question mark on them.
No, they did make it in.
Last year? No, they
Yeah,
didn't.
they lost in 6 to Carolina.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're right. I forgot all about them. Damn, that's how irrelevant they were. They got smoked by Carolina, and I forgot all about them.
Yeah,
I apologize, Islanders fans. I really do.
He doesn't really apologize.
No, I don't. But listen, I haven't forgot the bubble. I still remember it.
Yeah.
So with that though, the Islanders, they got in. Unfortunately, they ran into the Carolina Hurricanes, who played their game better than they did. The Islanders do like to play some defensive hockey, which unfortunately they got out defensed by the Carolina Hurricanes, is what it is. So Islanders are not completely bereft of talent. There's still plenty there. The question is, can the Islanders get back into the playoffs, or is the competition getting a little too stiff? Do you see them taking a step back this year? Or do you see them jumping back into the playoffs?
Boy, that's tough. That's a tough one.
Because, I mean, the thing is, and this is the same thing I have for the Penguins, is that while they'll be competing in the wild card, and while the Penguins definitely helped themselves by getting Karlsson, the problem is it's not just the Metro teams you got to worry about. You got 3 teams in the Atlantic that are trying to finally get back into the playoffs. You know, Sabres are one, Red Wings are the other, and the Senators. So you got 3 teams right there, and the Panthers, you don't know what they're going to do.
I'm throwing the Senators out. I don't like the Senators.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not. I am very down on them. I think DeBrincat they lose DeBrincat. I know they bring in Tarasenko, but DeBrincat's better than Tarasenko. That's not an upgrade.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Sens.
Yeah,
but all the same, there's still those resurging teams in the Atlantic. That division's getting tougher,
Buffalo,
and so
Detroit, and Florida.
Right. And so therefore you got some question marks to ask for the Islanders. Can they stay competitive in that wild card environment? Because I'm not so sure that the Islanders can take a division spot. I don't think they can. I'm not trying to shit on the Islanders in that. My honest, unbiased opinion is I don't know if the Islanders can hold out against the other teams. I think the Penguins could sneak in and take a 3rd spot if a team's falling apart. I don't know if the Islanders necessarily can. Yeah.
Either.
Yes.
That's a tough one because the Islanders are just so up and down.
Right, and that's the other issue that they've been running into.
They've been. I mean, when they're on top of their game defensively, they're as good as it gets. But you know what? They have these streaks where they'll go 10 games and they'll give up like 40 goals.
Right.
And then they have streaks where they'll go 10 games and they'll give up 15 goals. And they also last year lost Barzell for a significant amount of time and somehow still found their way into the playoffs, which you got to give them credit for.
Right.
And that's you go ahead, Rob.
No, I said right. Yeah.
I was going to say, and that's the thing too. I give the Islanders all the credit in the world. It's not that this team isn't resilient. They are very resilient, and that's something that they've got going for them. This is the kind of team that you think they're about to fall off, and then they pick it back up. And it's like, all right, you are resilient, but that's only going to get you so far. It got you to the first round last year, but you couldn't get past Carolina.
Right. Well, acquiring Bo Horvat helped last year in terms of sucking up the production that they were minus with Barzell. But, in that too, trading for him and then having to sign him really put them behind the 8 ball when you're talking about cap space and you come into this offseason and now you have very little money to help out plug some of these holes that Brad's talking about that leads to this inconsistent play. Now, they did ink up unrestricted free agents and Pierre Engvall, Iyla Sorokin, and Semyon Varlamov to nice contracts. But other than that, these holes are still there. So, I mean, there's one of those teams that will go streaking for a little bit, but I don't think have the consistency, to really definitely not make a top 3 in this division. They could hang on for a wild card, especially if a team like Ottawa falls out of it.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks for me.
The question is, can 5 teams in the Metro make the playoffs?
I'm
That's
not-
really the question, guys.
I mean, I think it's lucky this year that we even saw a Metro team from the wild cards. I mean, yes, I know the other team besides the Panthers was the Penguins, so yes, we almost saw 2 Metro teams make it, but I don't know. The longer we get, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the point where I'm thinking, I'm not so sure that we're going to get 2 Metro teams. We might be lucky in the near future if we get 1 Metro team to get in on a wild card slot.
Yeah, you're right though. If one of those 3 teams finally breaks through and punches their ticket, you got to figure it's the law of averages.
Right.
I mean, one of these days, one of these 3 teams, and they're both young and have a lot of talent. One of these teams is going to knock down the door and become competitive again.
Right. And then what's to say that 2 can't do it? What's to say that 2 of them won't start making wild card runs? And then you're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle then. For the Islanders, I don't know. It's starting to look like the environment for them competing for wild card spots is starting to dry up a little bit here.
Yeah, look how much Detroit improved this offseason, too. They could be a team that challenges for that spot.
Absolutely. And you don't know what Florida's going to do. And then on top of that as well, what if so let's go crazy here. Let's say the Red Wings snag 3rd place. Who's coming down? Either Tampa, Toronto, or Boston. Now, Boston, even if they lose Patrice Bergeron, which they did, what's to say that Boston doesn't snag a wild card spot? It's not out of their own possibilities.
Oh, I think they're still a playoff team. I just don't
Right.
think that they're not going to be breaking any records for points again this year.
Right. So the point is, even if the Red Wings were to say do something crazy and overachieve and get 3rd place, that just makes it even harder because now you've got one of the better Atlantic Division teams coming down in the wild card slumming it. So it's one of those I do not like the Islanders right now in the situation that they're in. I mean, like I said, the Penguins are still a question mark. And yes, they improved. But again, we're banking on the fact that the Atlantic teams are not going to make it this year. That's what we're banking on. And that's not a good thing to bank on when you're hoping that the other teams aren't going to be competitive.
You're darn right.
So I know Fish Sticks Islanders fans probably logged off by now in disgust, but I'm not trying to shit on your team, bro. It's just there's a lot of questions on this Islanders team. Right. And it's a rough environment they're walking into to try and get a spot.
You've just broken Mrs. Paul's heart.
I know. The Fish Sticks got to go back in. They ain't done yet.
Bestby too. Don't forget about Bestby. But David with the cap going up, you know what I mean? This is a team that, maybe even if they do have a down year this year, it could be very, very good in 2024-25. You know what I mean? Where you have more money to invest in the team, and you do have Bo Horvat locked up for long term.
Don't count out Lou Lamoriello, though.
Yeah. Right. And that's a good point, Rob.
He's as sharp as they come.
Yep.
He is.
He is. If he finds a crack in the armor somewhere and can get somebody in here who can score, watch out.
Right. So let's see.
They're relying on Besser. He's going to be the key. He's going to be the key guy because Matthew Barzal can't score all the goals. Somebody else has to score. And I think did they lose Bailey or who did they lose?
Josh Bailey, yeah.
I thought that was a big loss for them.
Yeah, that is a big loss for them.
He's starting to get long in the tooth, but
yeah, but he's a good player.
He's a good player. I agree.
Yeah, it's tough because that's a leader kind of player. Like I said before, those are hard to replace.
Yeah.
So let's see. Wasn't Halak an Islander? Yes, he was. Joe's saying, I'm ready for October, ready for the Flyers to start 5-1 and give me false hope and then go on a 15-game losing streak.
Isn't that kind of what they did last year?
Yeah. Damn it, Joe.
Halak was an Islander and last relevant during the first I Know What You Did Last Summer movie.
He's so old. He was
with
called
the fisherman outfit and everything.
The Halak Ness Monster.
Yeah. Oh, man, Mimo might say, don't forget Lost Island ain't loose. And then said, plus Islanders put lots of money into the new arena. That they did. They did. I heard it's beautiful, though. I have heard it looks very nice. Chucks, what's going on, brother?
What's up, brother?
And Anthony's saying the owners should change their name from Islanders to Gordon's Fish Sticks.
I don't think Mrs. Paul would be very happy.
No. Plus, also, I think they might get sued. That's the last thing the Islanders need is a lawsuit. Oh, it's bad enough they had a scam artist who almost got them sued. So
yeah, that's right. I forgot about him.
Yeah. Oh man. So let's see here. With that, with the Islanders, we can move on to the third period. And the third period brought to you by the best way to enjoy fantasy sports, none other than FanUp. If you want to get in on that fantasy action, and hey, listen, there's never a better time to do it than right now. MLB is still going on with daily contests, but it's time to prep for football season because that's coming up real soon. And not only do they have daily MLB contests, they'll have daily NFL contests and plenty more with the NHL and the NBA. You can win great prizes if you sign up today, and if you use the promo code A2D, you can get 5,000 bonus points. Now, normally that would cost you $50, but if you use A2D, that's free. You get 5,000 bonus points right off the bat. You didn't have to spend $50. That's not bad. It's not a bad deal at all. So, get FanUp, get into fantasy sports, earn yourself a little bit of cash. You could be like the broken one down here. He's rolling in that fantasy money. That man kills it all the time.
I may have to borrow him next season.
What
are you going to say, Robbie?
Yeah, that's cool. That's funny enough.
All right, then. So, with that, we move on to the Washington Capitals. So the Capitals, they missed last year. It was the first time they had missed in quite some time, actually. Ovechkin not being in the playoffs, kind of strange. It's about as strange as Crosby not being in the playoffs. As happy as I was not to see Crosby in the playoffs, it was weird. So now the question is, how do you respond? Do you think the Capitals have been responding well to the fact that they missed last year, and now it's time to see if they can try and recover and sort of turn the plane upward before it crashes? Do you think that they can do that, or do you think it's too late to pull the nose up?
I don't think it's. I mean, it's going to be a really weird year for the Capitals. Bringing in a new. Now they're going to be going in with a new head coach too. Bobby is in New York, so they turn the reins over to Spencer Carberry, who has coached with Washington in this farm system before, so he's very familiar with the young players on this team, and he got upper level coaching experience with the Toronto Maple Leafs as an assistant for them. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a weird transition between old and new. You're going to have a healthy Nick Backstrom back this year. That's certainly going to help their chances. Ovechkin continuing to pursue Gretzky. He's going to put up his goals, but they're just really tight against the salary cap, just like the Islanders.
They're gonna have Tom Wilson back too,
right? Yeah, they inked him to a 6-year extension, so I mean that helps. Certainly, and then they got Max Pacioretty, who's coming. He's coming off a major Achilles injury, so
yeah.
There's some question marks.
How many injuries has he had? I mean, how is it possible he could still be an effective player?
I don't think so. I don't think he can be.
Too many injuries. I mean, the kind of injuries he's had, guys don't come back from. Not in hockey.
So
I think you're going to see this team kind of enter a rebuild. I think that's what you're going to see.
So.
Yeah.
Too old and too slow.
So are we looking at a hard restart or are we looking at a soft reboot?
I think it's a soft reboot. I think they're going to try to stay competitive as long as they can while Ovechkin goes after that the Gretzky's goal record. They'll try to put enough around him just to make sure that he gets that record.
Right.
So, but as far as winning the cup right now, or getting the playoffs, that's a big ask.
I think, I mean, if it goes according to their plan, it could be a quick and easy retool. I mean, they did really well in this entry draft. I mean, they selected a guy I wanted for the Flyers. I'm glad we got Mitchkov, but Ryan Leonard, he's going to be big for them down the road, as well as Andrew Cristalla at pick 40. So, I mean, there are pieces in the organization, prior to that as well, that they add to that, they can help with the development and continue, putting talent around Ovechkin. But I think it's just getting from A to B is going to be a arduous road for the Capitals.
Right. Do you see Washington kind of in the same situation that the Islanders are in, where, because I feel like they are too. And I mean, like I said,
they don't have as good goaltending as the Islanders.
Right.
Sorokin can steal games, and so can
Varlamov.
Varlamov when he's on top of his game. They can steal games. The Capitals.
That's a good point.
Darcy, whatever the hell his last name is.
Kemper.
He's not going to steal games.
No, he's not a world beater. We said that earlier. He's not a world beater. Is he a terrible goaltender? No, not by any stretch of the imagination.
He's okay. He's a league average goaltender.
Right, which is great. It's good for a situation if you have a tandem or if you have him as a backup. But the problem is that you're asking him to be the starter. So it's, that's a hard ask.
And he's not on Colorado anymore.
No. So the offense ain't going to make up for it, because it's not like the offense was like 7 or 8 years ago with the Capitals, where it's like, oh, you gave up 4 goals? That's all right. We'll get 5. And that was not too far of a leap in the imagination for the Capitals 7 or 8 years ago.
Did they trade Kuznetsov yet? Because I know he asked for a trade. He's been screaming about getting out of there.
Did they? I don't think they did.
I don't think they did. But I mean, aren't they trying to get rid of him? And it seems like nobody wants him.
I know they were talking about it. No, he hasn't been traded yet.
And he's making a lot of money.
He is making a decent chunk of change.
Yeah, he is definitely not carrying his weight right now.
Right. That doesn't help. Carlson at least was rebounding and looking like his old self with Ottawa in that first year with the Sharks.
Yeah.
So that helped sell Pittsburgh on
yeah.
taking him on. So,
Absolutely. I mean, Carlson had a lot of injuries, but he finally got healthy again.
Right. He just got healthy at a time when the Sharks were about ready to start rebuilding. So, bad timing all around on this one. But overall, I would say for Washington, with the added addition of the struggles with goaltending, their situation might actually be worse than the Islanders, where the Islanders may be a streaky team. They're a resilient enough team, whereas Washington's like, if you had better goaltending, you might have a decent shot. But again, all this is based off of the fact that, we're going to be breaking down the Atlantic Division too, but keep in mind, that's a very essential part of what we're talking about here with the Islanders and the Capitals and the Penguins, because all 3 of them are going to be in that wild card hunt. And that's going to have a lot to do with those 3 teams we talked about earlier and what they've got going on in the Atlantic. So
I don't see it with Washington, Matty. I just don't see it.
It's a rough situation for them. They're going to have a rough year. And again, it's that trade-off of the Metros starting to kind of go on the decline. And while you have 3 teams that are doing real well with the Rangers, the Devils, and the Hurricanes, you got a team trying to keep themselves alive with Pittsburgh. You got a team trying to keep themselves alive with Washington, a streaky question mark team with the Islanders, a bad team in Columbus, slowly but surely praying to God developing team in Philadelphia. So, you've got a weaker Metro team, the Metro division, and you got a resurging Atlantic division. So it's like, the situation, that trade-off, Washington and the Islanders might be casualties of that as we start to get further along.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, the Islanders are not a young team either.
Right. They're not young either. So, I mean, retooling is probably the best way to go.
The Rangers may have some older players on their team, but I mean, you're talking like 30, 31. We're not talking 35, 36. There's a difference.
Right. There's a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, okay, Wheeler's old. Okay, I'll give you him. Okay, he's old, but at the same point, he's still very effective.
Right.
Okay, and he was proven effective last season, so there's no reason to think that he's going to fall off the cliff, especially if he's playing with Panarin and Trocheck.
Right. Right. And I do believe the Phillies lost. The Nationals beat them.
You know, it's hard to win a doubleheader, guys.
Yeah.
It really is, because you know you don't play the same players two games in a row on the same day.
Yeah.
If it's yesterday and today, your guys are playing every day. When it's a doubleheader the same day, you're resting half your team.
Right.
That's what kind of really sucks about doubleheaders. That's what makes it so hard to sweep them.
Right. Well, you can thank the weather for this one.
Yeah.
Me, Metal Mike saying, what would a tea party look like with Halak, Crosby speaking, broken French, wearing Nordique's jerseys? Hi, El Nordique. Sorry about this one. I would call it El Nordique's porn. So
Yep.
And let's see. Anthony saying Halak is so old. All the current young players were in elementary school. Actually, that's probably true.
Yeah, he's what, 39, 40 now?
Yeah.
Halak? Yeah. So I mean, yeah, he is old.
Whalers hockey soup saying us Whalers fans hated the Islanders the most.
I remember the Whalers when they had Blaine Stoughton. Boy, that guy score.
You know, the funny part is, I'm sure for the Whalers, as bad as you hated the Islanders, I don't think anything tops the Bruins.
No.
I don't think anything tops them, and I can understand because I hate the Bruins too.
Well, doesn't everybody?
Most people do.
Yeah.
Most people in the civilized world who are not Neanderthals hate the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
So
unless they're from Boston, nobody likes the Bruins unless they're from Boston.
Pretty much.
Oh.
Yeah.
Here's
They're not one of those teams. They're not
Yes,
one of
Robbie.
those teams that people like from other cities like.
Okay.
Cities like
you're not going to find Bruin fans in New York.
right.
Or Bruin fans
no.
in Philadelphia. You're not going to find that.
No.
You know,
No.
you might find some like in Florida.
Right.
Because the people from Boston retire and go to Florida, you know.
You probably find them in maybe not Connecticut, but you might find
communities.
Yeah, you might find them in Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, things like that. You might find them up there.
Count. They're all the same. They're all the same state.
Right. New England.
Yeah.
So, Robbie, what were you going to say, brother?
The moment passed. It was a joke. The moment passed, though.
Oh, okay. I got you. So Anthony's saying Washington Caps are so old, half of the team is AARP cards and driving jazzies to the arena. I mean, why Ovechkin did have to get a duo on his life insurance with with Backstrom. So
Oh God.
Anthony saying Cap should sign Yager, or then the team with the oldest team in the NFL with the average age of 100. Obviously the NHL, but still, if only Yags didn't retire from the NHL, it would have been his second stint. All right, moving on. So to the shootout we go, gentlemen. I do believe that was all we needed to say about the Caps there.
Yeah.
And to the shootout in the overtime, brought to you by Alonzi Travel. If you've got a vacation destination that you have been wanting to go to for quite some time, but you don't want to stress out by planning all the travel arrangements with the flight and with all of the where's the hotel going to be, how far are we going to be from the place, you don't want to do all that, let Alonzi Travel take care of it for you, so you don't have to worry about that. They specialize in creating the vacation of your dreams at Disney, Universal, or wherever your heart calls to. Let their talented team, which includes Chucks and Ritz from A2D here, let them, the travel experts, create the custom vacation for you. They are experts in this field. They will not let you down. All you'll have to do is wake up and catch your flight and pack up. That's all you'll have to do. You don't have to plan anything else. All right. On to our shootout. Mom and Pop Pizza Joint. I'll be honest with you. I'm having a hard time figuring that one out. I've been thinking about it for like a good hour. I don't know about you guys.
Marco's in Pennington.
Okay.
Just north of Trenton.
All right.
Delicious.
Brad, you got one?
Sapporo's in Ventnor.
Oh, let's go.
It's on Ventnor Avenue and Newport Street.
Interesting.
If you're ever down, like going to Margate or Atlantic City, and you want good pizza and you don't want to go through the bullshit of Atlantic City, then that's a good place. If you do want to go through the bullshit of Atlantic City, though, I would highly recommend Southside Pizza on Ventnor Avenue. They are outstanding as well.
Yep.
Interesting. Nice. All right then. So let's see here. We're jumping on over to our shootout. And for the shootout for today, the topics we will be for the top 5 players all time for the Rangers, Islanders, and Capitals. So why don't we save the Rangers for last, for Brad's sake? And why don't we kick it off with the hated rival of the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders. So I'm going to let Brad go last because I'm very interested to see what his 5 will be for the Islanders. For me, I will say all time 5, not ranked. 5, Billy Smith, who inspired Rod Hextall. So thank you, Smith, for inspiring him. Number 4. Yeah, it's the only thing that I can say thank you to him for. Number 4, Mike Bossy. Number 3, Trottier. And give a lot of credit to Trottier, too, because at the end of his career, he won a couple cups with Pittsburgh. So it's like, damn, Trottier, got to give him credit on that one. Next up, I know I could keep going with the late 70s, early 80s Islanders, but I'm trying to pull myself away from that because that's a little, it's like, come on, that's easy. Let me see if I can make other ones.
Yeah, but it's not your fault that all the players they've had since then have stunk.
Rick DiPietro? No? On nobody's list? Oh,
DP.
Oh, boy. DiPietro.
He's still getting paid, too.
He is.
Yep.
He is.
He's Bobby Bonilla Jr.
Oh, man. I got to give him credit, though. He figured out how to work the system. He really did.
Yes, he did.
Let's see here. I'll throw out yeah, you know what? You know what? John Tavares. I know Islanders fans hate Tavares because he left and went to the Leafs, but you know what? During a really bad period of Islanders hockey, Tavares was the only thing relevant for that team. So I'll give Johnny T a little bit of credit on that one for keeping that team afloat when it sucked real bad.
They were brutal.
I mean, he elevated a couple of players. He elevated Kyle Okposo to the point where he was able to sell himself to Buffalo. And then he elevated everybody into thinking Matt Molson was a great player. So, you know what? It's like, you know what? Give Tavares a lot of credit. He fooled a lot of people. So, and then the final one on that, I will throw out wait. LaPointe was an Islander, was he not?
Which LaPointe?
Was it Scott LaPointe?
Gila Point, you mean?
Gila Point, sorry, Scott. Gila Point, I think, was who I was talking about.
No, he never was on the Islanders. You're thinking of Matthew Schneider, probably.
I think I know who you're thinking of. Are you thinking of Pat LaFontaine?
Pat LaFontaine, thank you. I don't know
There you
why
go.
I was thinking
Okay.
LaPointe, but anyway, damn French names. But yeah, LaFontaine, that would be, yeah, I'll go with Pat LaFontaine.
Cool. No, that's awesome because he's on my list too, and he's not like a huge Islander guy.
I consider him a saver.
I get that. I do get that.
I'm not going to give the Islanders credit for him.
I get that.
They were dumb enough to trade him, and you know what? Too bad for them.
Right. But he does deserve.
Thank God they traded him.
But he was still really great for the Islanders. So you got to give him that. Got to give him that. All right, Robbie, I give it to you. I apologize for stealing LaFontaine from you there. I know you were going to throw that.
We're going to double up on a lot of these for sure. No worries. I'm glad you said that because personally, he's my favorite Islander, like growing up watching. He had 287 goals and 13 hat tricks with them. But he's really a Hall of Famer for not only his days on the island, but like Brad said in Buffalo, equally as much, if not more. And then, interesting enough, he finished his career as a Ranger in 97, 98. Did you know that?
I remember. They signed him with all that concussion stuff, and he lasted about 45 games, and then he finally got a concussion.
Yeah.
That was too bad because he was playing real well.
Yeah, no, it's a big time shame.
Yep.
But yeah, he was my number 5 on my list. I did rank these guys. Number 4, Billy Smith. We talked about him earlier on the show, or actually we referenced a goaltender, Freddie Anderson, who was a great regular season goaltender, a poor playoff goaltender. Well, Billy Smith was the opposite. During the regular season, I think I probably below at 900 goal save percentage, but when the lights were bright in the playoffs, well over 900 save percentage. He's a Hall of Famer, won the Vezina in 81-82, was the Conn Smythe in 82-83, 4-time Stanley Cup champ. He's my number 4. Number 3, Brian Trottier, also a Hall of Famer, 79-80 Conn Smythe, 78-79 Hart, 75-76 Calder. Mike Bossie's number 2 on my list, Hall of Famer. There's a trend here. 81-82 Conn Smythe, 77-78 Calder, 8-time All-Star. His 573 goals still stand as number 1 all-time for the Islanders. But number 1, and you didn't have him, Maddie, my number 1 Islander is Denny Potvin.
That makes total sense. I realized it when you were going down the list, but then I also thought, you know what? I'm happy I didn't, because you know what? It would have been too easy. It would have been too easy to throw Potvin out there.
I mean, you could make an argument that he's the best, defenseman of all time, but certainly the best defenseman of the Islanders all time. Part of the 4-time Stanley Cup run, won the Norris 3 times.
No, to be honest with you, though, I will piggyback off that for you, Rob, and give you even more of a boost. He's the best Islanders player in the history of the organization. I don't care what anybody says. He's the best Islander to ever play the game. So now that the 2 Flyers fans have given their top Islanders, it's now time for the Rangers fan to give his top Islanders.
I noticed there's one player who I've included in here that neither one of you guys included, and I know why.
Go right ahead.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna start with Mike Bossy, who, in my opinion, was the Islanders. I think he was the best player that they ever had. The guy was a phenomenal goal scorer. Scored 50 goals every season that he played. Yeah. Okay, and had to retire because of his back, not because he couldn't play hockey anymore, but because he hurt his back. That guy was unstoppable. The most natural goal scorer I think I've ever seen. Couldn't stand the guy, but you know what? He never started any shit. He was never a troublemaker. He just went out there, played the game, and played the game the right way. And I mean, his wrist shot, he was so accurate, it was ridiculous.
He was dangerous.
Phenomenal player. Number 2, Brian Trottier. Brian Trottier was the key to that team, and he set everything up. They drafted Potvin in year 2 to be on the team. At year 3, they drafted Brian Trottier. And year 3, after the bad expansion year, they drafted a fellow by the name of Clark Gillies. And he's the one Islander that I actually really liked. Because you know what? He beat the crap out of Dave Schultz. And he beat the crap out of Terry O'Reilly. And you know what? Ben Wilson beat him up one time, and he vowed that he was going to get even. And when he played them in Chicago, when Ben Wilson got traded to Chicago, he beat the crap out of him too in Chicago. So, and you know what? The guy was a great player. He could score goals, and nobody in their right mind who had a brain wanted to really start with him and get him bad, because he was kind of, he had a Scott Stevens type of temper. If he got mad, it would basically take the entire World Wrestling Federation to hold him back.
Yeah. You were right. I did purposely leave him off because of hatred,
I know why.
But I figured you would mention him, so I knew he would be represented.
There you go.
Yeah. You mentioned Chili's before.
Yeah, he was just a phenomenal player, and he was a really good player too. I mean, he could score. He scored a lot of goals. I mean, that was the Long Island Lighting Company, if I remember. That was what they called the line, the Lilco line. Annoying bastards. The electric, and then I used to hear the Electric Company. Oh my God! If you had to hear all their nicknames for that line, it was horrible, but they were really good. So what can you say? Dennis Potvin, number 4. Okay, and I hate Dennis Potvin, so it's a completely biased situation here, where I wouldn't put that son of a bitch on top. Because he was a cheap shot bastard, and he ruined Ulf Nielsen's career.
So, okay, let me ask you a question. When you hear the thing go off in the arena for Potvin sucks, do you participate?
At home?
Yes.
Always.
Okay. Just wondering.
Always. As a matter of fact, when Bald Eagle Vinny does the whistle,
yes.
Okay, I whistle along with him at home. Because I know who the guy is that does the whistle. His name is Vinny. They call him Bald Eagle Vinny.
Okay.
And Rob, I don't want you to get upset. This is not anything towards you. That's just the guy's name. I've never actually seen him before, but I just know who he is. They always mention him because the guy's got the best whistle of all time. It's amazing that he can go into Madison Square Garden and whistle that freaking loud that the entire arena can hear him.
Just not even the arena. Even they could pick it up on television too.
Yeah. So, well, you know what the other thing is? That crazy bastard goes to all the opposing arenas.
And he does it?
And, and all the Ranger fans there yell Potvin sucks. He did it. One time he did it in Montreal. And you know how stuffy Montreal fans are. Okay, the stuffiest fans in the NHL. They're like, it's like Wimbledon there. It's like it used to be like going to a country club at that old Forum. Yeah. That guy used to go into the Forum and do it. and the Ranger fan club used to go there, and they used to have a couple of buses, and they used to go there, and he'd do it, and all the fans would yell "Potvin sucks" in Montreal. So yeah. And the last one, number 5, would be Billy Smith, who just was the most annoying goalie I've ever seen, as Rob, you so eloquently put it. During the regular season, you could beat him. You have his number. In the playoffs, he just said, "Nope, nope. You're not scoring. You're not scoring on me. And if you get too close to my crease, I'm going to take my stick and shove it up your butt so far you're going to be spitting out splinters." And I'll never forget the one-handed axe swing on Wayne Gretzky. That was the classic. I mean, he's lucky he didn't get suspended for doing that. Sure. If he did that now, he would get suspended for sure, whether he connected or not. Because that was Hextall never even did that.
No, but Hexy did whack what's his nuts when he got close to him one time.
Yeah, but Smith did it over the shoulder.
Right. Hexy kind of just did a little wind up.
Yeah, Hexy did a kind of a sideways shot.
Right.
Smith did over the shoulder at Gretzky. I mean, behind the net. When he was standing behind the net, I mean,
killer.
Right.
Oh, Smith, that never bothered Smith. I don't think that ever entered his mind. So
No.
great player though. And so it's Trottier, Bossy, Gillies, Potvin, Smith. I'm sorry I didn't mention Matthew Barzell or Pat LaFontaine. Great players. But those guys were phenomenal players. I mean, there's just no other way to put it.
Right. Leafs Sens fans saying Ottawa may have a short window. We have older veterans. Giroux, I don't see us winning crap. Anthony saying Domino's cheap and easy like a hooker. And then Leafs saying, imagine Atlantic City getting an NHL team. Is Baltimore getting a team? Which would be a worse fan base?
Atlantic City had a team, by the way, guys. The Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies.
Wow, nice.
They played in the Atlantic City Convention Center.
Yeah,
They played there till I think 2005, and then they moved to Newport, California.
That's
But if you go online, you can actually find what their jersey looked like, and it was pretty cool.
Okay, interesting. Might have to check that out.
Yeah.
Saber saying Tavares. He also threw out Halak. And then he also said favorite 90s, early 2000s fish stick player. Zdeno Chara, because it makes me laugh every single time that they traded him away.
For Alexei Yashin. Yeah. Alexei Yashin is my favorite player in the 90s.
Yeah. All right.
They traded Chara for him and paid him all that money, and he stunk.
Yep.
He was terrible.
So let's move forward to our next team, the Rangers. The Rangers are last. Let's go to the Caps. So starting off for me, not ranked again, 5, obviously Ovechkin. Number 4, I will throw out, this is going to be a biased one. I don't give a shit. Keith Jones. Yogs, because you know what? Fuck it. Yogs is going every time we bring up a team he's been on. And then on top of that as well, we go to. Okay, this one I actually have to be serious about. You know what? I'm going to throw out a goaltender, Dom Beaupre, who was actually a pretty good goaltender for the Capitals back in the early 90s. And
he was good. He was good.
Yeah, he was actually – the sad part is he was with the Caps, and the Caps didn't win anything. But he was a damn good goaltender for him back in the day.
Remember Ole the goalie?
Yep, and then obviously he was actually going to be number 1 in Kolzig. And yes, I kept Dale Hunter off because fuck Dale Hunter. So –
goalie, Kolzig, wow. Nice,
yep.
Nice name. Forgot about him.
And so, Mimo might say Yager, Kovalik, Ovechkin, and V. Who wants to go next? Robbie, Brad, who wants to give their caps?
I'll go next. Okay, starting number 1, obviously, is Ovi. Number 2, the biggest pest to ever play in the Capitals that used to just destroy the Rangers every time they played him, Peter Bondra. Oh, my God.
Peter Bondra.
He used to murder us. We couldn't stop him. If there was a brick wall, he would have knocked a brick down and put the puck in the net right where the brick was missing. That guy scored every time the Rangers played them. They couldn't stop him. Never had an answer. Number 3 would be Nick Backstrom.
Backstrom, okay, good choice.
Number 4, Rod Langway, who, in my opinion, may have been the best defenseman that team ever had.
I believe he was the captain of the Capitals, too, for a long time.
Yes, he was. He was a fantastic defenseman.
And he was like the first guy to kind of give the Capitals some respect, too, back in the day.
Yes, he was. And you know what? And he was the one that was able to he actually – and they had Stevens playing with him.
Right.
Because he could actually control Stevens when Stevens early in his career used to lose his mind and do crazy stuff.
Right.
Like his eyes would roll back into his head and he'd go nuts, and Langway was always there to calm the guy down. So basically what we're saying is the captain, Scott Stevens, is born because he played with Rod Langway in Washington. Correct. And number 5 would be Scott Stevens, the aforementioned. Actually, no, you know what? I'm going to take him out of there, and I'm going to put one of my favorite players that ever played the game in there, and that was Mike Gartner.
Mhm.
Mike Gardner makes sense.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
Of course, he played for us too, so
A little favoritism there.
but 600 goals. I mean, I can't, kind of hard to forget him. But Mike Gartner, I have to put Mike Gartner in there instead of Steve. I was going to have Stevens as fifth, but you know what? He played most of his career. He didn't play most of his career with Washington, so.
And also, fuck Scott Stevens.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. But Mike Gartner scored all those goals, and unfortunately, he never won a cup, but he was a great player.
All right, Robbie, your caps.
Our lists are identical, Brad. At 5, I got Nick Backstrom. He's a Stanley Cup champ. He also is the all-time assist leader with 791 for the Washington Capitals. Not a big surprise.
If you were Ovechkin's center, you might lead the league in center in assists too.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
You might.
Yep. Number 4, I also have Mike Gardner. He had 387 goals with the Caps, which is third most on their all-time list. 4-time All-Star with the Caps. He's co-leader in the NHL for most consecutive 30-plus goal seasons, too, with 15. He had 15 seasons of 30-plus goals.
That guy could skate.
Yeah.
He could really skate.
Sneak preview, he's also on my Rangers list. Number 3, Peter Bondra, I have as well. 5-time All-Star, 472 goals for the Caps, which is number 2 to Ovechkin, of course. He's a franchise leader, though, in shorthanded goals with 32. That's what I love about Bondra. Just a great penalty killer.
He was. And what I love about that is that not one of us had Dale Hunter or Scott Stevens on our list. Good job, guys.
Well, I still got 2 more, but they're not on it.
Scott Stevens.
Go ahead, Robbie.
Dale Hunter.
Number 2, I have Rod Langway as well. 2-time Norris. He is a plus 116 lifetime, which is number 1 in Caps history.
I didn't realize he was that good. I respect him because nobody ever got around him. He was just he was the brick wall back there.
Right.
God
Absolutely.
Damn.
2-time Norris Trophy winner. He was the team captain for 11 years, Maddie, which is second all time in terms of length of captaincy to Alex Ovechkin, who's my number 1. Second most goals in NHL history. We know that. 9-time Maurice Richard Trophy winner, 3-time Hart Trophy winner, Stanley Cup champ at Conn Smythe in 2018. He's the Caps leader in games played, goals, and points.
Wow. When you list out everything Ovechkin's accomplished, it's like, holy shit. That's just his NHL accomplishment, too, because he won medals in the Olympics. He's won world championships. It's like, Jesus, Ovechkin did it all. Like, God damn. All right. And me, Metal Mike, threw out Holtby, which, hey, got to throw a little love to Holtby. Yeah. He did win the cup as the goaltender for the Capitals there. All right, then. On to the final one, the one that Brad's been waiting for, the Rangers. And I will let you go last because I know you will probably have the best list of them all for this one. You should. So, and
it was. Let's put it this way: it was really hard. I told you, I had to really think about their early years, their the 50s and 60s, and then going into the 80s and 90s. And and now they got some pretty damn good players too. So this was a hard list for me. But go ahead, I'll get to it.
So for starting things off, I'll go not ranked 5 for me. I will start things off with the Rangers. Henrik Lundqvist, the king. You gotta give him some love on that one. May not have won a cup, but goddamn was he not one of the best goaltenders you ever saw in your life. He really was. I hated facing him. I didn't want to face him. Like when I saw Lundqvist, I was like, God damn it.
It's just such a shame they couldn't put a good enough team together.
Right. And then besides Lundqvist, I'm going to throw out Mark Messier. I mean, they called him the Messiah for a reason. So, and then he came over and he helped the Rangers win a cup for the first time since 1940. I think he earned the right to be called that for the Rangers.
Well, he scored the cup winning. He scored the cup winning goal. He had a hat trick in Game 6 when they were down 3-2 against the Devils.
Right, and he guaranteed
to win, and then scored a hat trick. I mean, the guy was ridiculous.
Right. Hard to argue against that.
No, can't argue with him.
Throwing out to I'm going to throw out to the next one. I will say I got to throw out Richter only because, one thing that stands out to me is not only did he win a cup for the Rangers, but also he won the World Cup for Team USA. And it's like, you know what? I got to give Richter that. Like, he beat Team Canada, and this was the pros. This wasn't just...
I remember.
Yeah, that was the pro team facing off with a U.S. team that was very much an underdog. So the fact that he won that for him, yeah, all right. I got to give Richter that. Besides that, he is currently on the team. I hate him, but you know what? I love his game. Kreider. I love Chris Kreider's game. Yeah. I hate him, but I got to say, you know what? That guy, he fucking goes out there and he just plays his ass off.
He's also number 8 all time in goals now.
So there you go. That just adds more fuel to the fire. Just like that.
He's starting to really put together some numbers now.
Right. Like that dude is I hate facing him, but it's just like, damn, he's one hell of a player. You got to give him that. And then to finish it all off, Yogs. I had to do it.
Listen, he scored 55 goals as a Ranger.
I'm surprised you didn't say Yager for Washington, too.
I did. I threw Yogs out after Jonesy.
You did.
Because I was.
He did.
Fuck you, over bitch.
I had no choice. I had to do it. I'm sorry, Caps fans. I wasn't taking that list all that seriously. But for the Rangers one, though, I think I did a little bit better. Maybe not for the 80s and the 70s, but,
Hey, we tried.
Right.
You were in the way. The Bruins were in the way. The Canadians were in the way. And the Islanders were in the way.
Right.
So what are you going to do? They had some pretty good teams back then, though.
They did. They did.
They just weren't good enough. That's all.
Right. So, Robbie, I lead it to you, my man. What do you got for the Rangers?
Well, first off, I will say these Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies jerseys are fucking boss. You are correct.
I told you.
All right, I gotta take a look at them now.
It's like it almost looks like a mix between the Blues and the Sharks jersey with all the great elements and the insignia with a bulldog with the hockey stick.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's a really cool jersey. I wish I could find it somewhere. I mean, because it's great.
They're selling it online. That's what I was looking at.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Look it up.
They used to play right over the convention center. Not the convention, not the new convention center by the train station. The old one on the boardwalk.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
If you've ever gone there to see a concert, you'll notice it kind of looks like an ice arena. It's kind of built like an ice arena. Yeah. Yeah, that is where they used to play.
I am looking at them now.
A few concerts there.
Yeah, that's where they played.
Yep,
damn,
it's a hockey arena.
You are right, though. These are nice.
Yeah,
they're very nice. These jerseys,
really, really cool jerseys. I didn't know they were selling them.
Huh?
I may have to.
I want one.
Yeah,
I kind of want one too now.
I have to get one.
A next bad money choice right there.
I do it.
Being that I live down here, I really should. I mean,
if I hit on a GPP this football season, right, I'll buy all 4 of us a jersey.
There you go, brother.
Go.
I love that. That's what I like to hear.
Lock it up.
So we're gonna be rooting for you all the way.
There you go. Go Rob.
All right.
All right, my Rangers list. Well, I said number 5. Is it cheating to go Mike Gardner again? I don't think so because first Ranger to record 40-plus goals in 3 straight seasons. He holds 2 of the top 10 best single-season records for goals by a Ranger. He was the All-Star MVP in 92-93. He's a Hall of Famer from his days in New York, but also, as we said, Washington.
Everywhere
Played
he
for
played.
the Minnesota with the North Stars.
Toronto.
And he finished his career with
That I don't know.
Phoenix Coyotes.
Did he really?
Yeah,
Well, it seems like everybody.
Oh,
goes to Phoenix
yeah, that's
but he
right.
I think he put up like 32 goals with them in that last year. I'm gonna look it up now.
Of course he did.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense that he finished up his career because that was back when the Coyotes were trying to grab. They grabbed guys. They had Roenick for a while. They had Tocchet. They tried to throw these dream teams together, and they actually did make the playoffs a few times, but they could never get out of the first round.
Yeah, he played 2 seasons.
The Shane Doan years, right?
Yeah, the Shane Doan years.
Okay.
He played 2 seasons with them, 96-97 and 97-98. And that second to last season, he played all 82 games and had 32 goals and 31 assists for 63 points. In that last season, he played only 60 games and he was 12, 15, 27. It was pretty much, hang him up time. But that last season, that's a productive season.
Yeah, right.
Well, damn.
He was a great player. I love Mike Gardner. One of my favorite players.
For sure. Yeah, one of my favorite Rangers. I think of him as a Ranger first. Number 4, Henrik Lundqvist, Hall of Famer. You talked about him, Maddie, 2-time All-Star. He won the Vezina Trophy. His number 30 is retired with the Rangers, so he's got to be on an all-time list. Number 3 is where I'm going to put Mess, just because, he did have a lot of notoriety with the Oilers too, but I mean, really, he's known for the guarantee, and I've never seen a player in any sport take a team on his shoulders and single-handedly will them to a championship like he did that year.
He did.
He really did.
I mean, hell, he won a cup in Edmonton, leading them without Gretzky, and then he proved that was no fluke by doing it with the Rangers without the players he had in Edmonton. Well, not all of them. He had a few of them, but not all of them.
Yeah. Not all of them. He did have a few of them.
Absolutely. And he too has his number retired with the Rangers, 11, so he definitely belongs on the list. My number 2 might be, I think it's not a surprise. Maybe it could be a surprise that he's not number 1, but number 2, I'm going to put Rod Gilbert here, Hall of Famer, New York Rangers leader in goals and points, 2-time All-Star, and their award every year, the Mr. Ranger Award, is named after him, so he's got to be on an all-time
Yes, it
list,
is.
right? Yep. And last but not least, my number 1 is probably another favorite Ranger that, just like you, Maddie, where you had a lot of respect for your player, but boy, did you hate him because he was so good. And that's Brian Leetch, Hall of Famer, 2-time Norris Trophy winner, the 93-94 Conn Smythe, as they won the cup to break the curse. Brian Leetch, probably another equally as good defenseman to go up there with Denny Potvin.
Yeah. Yeah, and the funny part is, came from Texas, I think, of all places.
Corpus Christi.
Yeah, and like, damn, came from Texas. Yeah, and one of the best probably the best USD man of all time. I can't think of many other USD men that match him.
Maybe Fox.
Maybe, and I did forget I forgot he was American actually until you told me.
Well, no, in fact, he's my son-in-law's second cousin.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I didn't even know it until I was talking to my what do you call it? My brother-in-law, I guess. When your daughter marries their son, the 2 fathers are what, brother-in-laws? I don't know what you call them.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the women are sisters. So I guess brother-in-law. Yeah.
It's his brother's kid.
Interesting.
So, yeah, they're from Long Island.
It's called My Drinking Buddy During Holiday Parties.
Yeah, right.
Family holiday parties, that is.
Yeah, but I still paid through the nose when I wanted to get a puck signed by him, so that didn't help. I tried.
All right. So before you jump into your list there, Brad, me Metal Mike thrown out. Rangers, Lundqvist 5, Brad Richards at 4. Number 3, Igor, 2, Zibanejad, and number 1, Gretzky. I did resist throwing Gretzky on there because that was kind of towards the end of Gretzky's career when he joined the Rangers. Not that he was bad.
No.
Just it was towards the end.
Yeah.
You knew it was the end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was definitely the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys are going to be a little surprised by some of my picks, but maybe you won't be.
Yeah. Me, Mel Michael said Jágr on the Rangers was filthy to watch. He was.
Yes, he was.
And he was the captain for that period of time, too.
Yep.
All right.
He is not on my list.
Well, I mean, hey, there's a lot of history, and Brad, you know it better than anybody. I think it's time you take it away with your top 5 for the Rangers.
Okay. We're going to start with a great Ranger from the 50s by the name of Andy Bathgate, who scored 265 goals for the Rangers on teams that were absolutely horrible. They went in the 50s, they just had nobody. And early 60s, they had nobody. And Andy Bathgate was the team. And he scored, as I said, 265 goals. When Rod Gilbert set the team record with goals, it was Andy Bathgate that he had to pass to get there. So as a tribute to him, I have him as number 5. Number 4 is Henrik Lundqvist, who was the best goalie they ever had. I loved Eddie Jockerman, and I certainly loved Mike Richter. Loved Van Beesbrook too, but Lundqvist was the best one out of all of them, without a doubt. And it's a shame that they were always offensively challenged the entire time he played for them, because he deserved better.
Also a little unlucky too.
Yeah. Number 3 was Brian Leetch. Number 2 was Mark Messier.
Okay.
And number 1 was number 7, Rod Gilbert.
All right, then. Nice.
He was my guy. He was the man. He was a great player. I mean, the only criticism I've ever had of him was it seemed like when Jean Rattel got traded from the Rangers, he seemed a little lost. But then he rebounded and he scored 36 goals 3 years in a row.
Wow,
So
there you go.
But he did seem a little lost. Phenomenal player. He was just a great goal scorer. Not a big guy, but he really was Mr. Ranger. So I could give you honorable mentions up the Gazoo. Brad Park, one of my favorites. John Rattel, who was outstanding. Ron Greshner, loved him too. Nick Fotiu, who was not a good player but beat everybody up. He was never afraid of anybody. He was such a good fighter, even Clark Gillies wouldn't fight him.
To be fair, that's the whole reason he was there.
He was the Golden Glove boxing champion. And he's from Staten Island, and he could skate. So the Rangers say, "Hey, what the hell? Why not?" I mean, they've had some real good players over the year. Ron Greshner, and not just because he was a great player, but I mean, come on, he had Carol Waltis, his wife, for a while.
He had Jane Erickson.
Yeah. John Erickson. Yeah. I wouldn't put him anywhere. I mean, we had Espo near the end of his career. He was pretty good. Dion at the end of his career, he was pretty good.
You had Tim Kerr.
Yeah. And then he hurt his shoulder. He scored a few goals for them, and then he hurt his shoulder. Like he kept doing in Philly, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately.
But I mean, but I'll tell you what, some of the guys that are on the team right now, Zibanejad, Panarin, and Fox, these are 3 guys, and Shesterkin. These are 3 guys that if they can ever win the cup, I would put them. I could put them ahead of all these guys if they were ever able to pull that off. So we'll see.
Wow.
We'll see.
Did Kevin Hayes come close to cracking your list?
No, Lazy Hazy never didn't crack my list because of his. He was just when he was with the Rangers, as talented as he was the dumbest player I've ever seen in my life.
It was my clever way of bringing him up because I saw a tweet from Jamie Boscow offering him congratulations for he got married today.
Good for him. Good for,
yeah,
I don't have
yeah.
anything. I don't have anything against the guy. He didn't do anything wrong. Oh, good.
Look
Lord.
at that smoke show.
Nice.
Yeah, I got it.
He did well.
Yeah,
That's
He did well for himself.
Yeah,
He did. Hey, listen, if he never wins a cup, you know what? He's got that. So you know what? I don't think he's got any complaints.
No. I mean, but listen, he did. Yeah, I mean, I feel I respect the fact that he lost his brother, and that had to really suck too.
Yeah, that was sad.
That was bad. And as a man, he's a good guy. I've heard a lot of really good things about him as a human being and as a person. So
right.
I always wish him the best. I just couldn't stand when he scored against the Rangers, but. I mean, listen. For Jacob Trouba, I make that trade every time.
All right, then. So that will do it for this edition of the Hockey Happy Hour. We thank everybody who tuned in and joined us. If you stuck with us through the whole thing, thank you very much. And even if you didn't, we know that you're still here in spirit, and we still love you all the same, fam. Thank you very much for once again throwing out your comments, throwing out your questions. We always love seeing that. And one last time, we are brought to you by none other than the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal. Any aches and pains, hit up the doc at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com, and you won't have any aches and pains anymore after you see him. And to finish it all off, we have a great lineup of shows. We highly recommend that you go check them out. We had a great interview earlier on today, and we always have special guests on the shows that are always adding so much more to the product. And you know what? Again, also, thank you to the fam because you make that possible. But one of the interview that we had earlier today was going on. We had who was it? We had Rob Ellis.
Barkin.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Mike Barkin. He went to that same high school as me, by the way.
Really interesting.
East Brunswick High School. Yeah, graduated with my sister.
Huh?
My brother lives in South River.
Does he really? Does he?
Yeah.
A river rat?
Yeah.
Wow. You know how much East Brunswick and South River used to be an unbelievable rivalry.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they used to kick our asses in football all the time. Yeah,
Joe Theismann went to South River.
Yeah, and Drew Pearson. They had some really good football players.
Yeah, Drew Pearson too. You're right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's just a perfect example. Rob Ellis live with Michael Barkan. There's obviously Agree or Disagree, the flagship show, where you can see all the craziness that happens there. Of course, we also have Brad. Your feel free to fill in the fans about your other show that you have here.
With Rob Brigman and Doug Minkiewicz, former Major League Baseball player.
Right.
And I'll tell you, if you guys haven't listened to him, he's truly he's a gift. The guy's great. Rob and I listened to him, and it's just we have learned so much more about baseball.
Nice.
In the last month that it's unbelievable. By the way, this coming week we're going to have Gordy Coombs on, who used to be a coach at Towson football. He played for Towson. He's doing their play-by-play this year. He's been doing it for like 40 years now. He's been with the program. So we're going to do a college football show next week. So, and Gordy agreed to come on. So we're going to have Doug and him. And Doug, by the way, used to be a manager too. So I'm very interested to see those two discuss, coaching and either comparing baseball coaching and football coaching, because that would be interesting conversation. So by all means, guys, that some of you guys might actually enjoy that.
All right, then. So exciting things here on A2J.
I sure as hell don't know shit about college football, but I'll do my homework and do my best, guys. Not my bag. Hockey is my bag. That's baseball. I'm pretty darn good at baseball too, and I can hold my own at football. But basketball and college football, yeah.
Well, don't worry. We'll support you all the way there for how much that's worth. I know nothing about college sports either. Yeah. So
I'll just read online and try to catch up, and and let them talk and give my usual right, yeah.
Do the good politician act.
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
But Gordy is great. We had him on in the summer, and rather early in the summer, and he was terrific. So I think it's to talk about college football. Next week, college football is what, 2 weeks away, 1 or 2 weeks away. Why not? I think a coach, he would be good, and it'll be fun to hear his opinions of the SEC and the Big Ten, and of course we'll have to talk about the Colonial Conference too, because Towson State is in the Colonial Conference.
So obviously.
Yes, we talk about that too, and I apologize for anyone who gets upset about that, but we're going to talk about that too. I just hope all the computers don't get turned off after that when we start talking about that. But
well, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Just like talking about the Rangers, everybody probably turned off the TV.
It's all right.
That's okay.
We'll get them back next week when we break down some more of the divisions.
Yeah, there you go.
But besides that, obviously, in this very ring for wrestling, every now and again, Lazy Booking, there's a really great interview from Chrome. Chrome also doing Birds of a Feather when the Eagle season gets up and running with Chucks. So there's a lot of great stuff that we have here.
Chrome is terrific, by the way.
Yes, Chrome.
That interview with that wrestler was unbelievable.
Tyler Breeze, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That was unbelievable. I still can't believe that. I'm proud of us as a station for being able to put forth that kind of entertainment. That was unbelievable.
Absolutely. And that's what Chrome does. He brings the goods on his show. So, there's a lot of great stuff we got here for everybody out there. If you haven't tuned in, also Money Pop Podcast too for the fantasy sports. Want to throw that out there because that's important as well. Yes. So we've got everything covered for you guys. All the great content from football, basketball, baseball, hockey, everything, wrestling. It doesn't matter what it is. We've got it, and we've got people who are experts at it who will talk your ear off for however long you wish them to talk your ear off on it. So feel free, like and subscribe, and hit the bell so that way you get the notifications. If you want to follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. And we're also on Spotify with the other podcasts for the audio. So check us out. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow, and we'll talk your ear off about whatever it is you wish to talk your ear off in the sporting world. So until next week, we will return. And we will break down either the Atlantic, the Central, or the Pacific Division. And we will see, ultimately, who's going to have the best advantages, who will have the disadvantages. What will we think will happen come the end of the season for that respective team? Until then, guys, we will see you guys next week right here on A2DRadio.com. Until then, peace and love, everyone.